Damn it, it's too late. Oh, I didn't hit the enable local recordings, which is my favorite thing that this StreamYards can do now. Would get rid of the lag that creeps in. It's very annoying when editing, but not a huge deal. All right, give people a couple minutes to filter on in. We'll see what's going down.
Yeah, I really should not have primed outside in these weather conditions, but I don't really have anywhere else to do it.
Can you use Nick's airbrush?
I just like the rattle can. I don't know.
Then you should not prime for 5 months a year.
These guys are a little goopy. But you know what? They're commandos, dude. They've probably been digging around in the sludge.
Aye, Chief.
Sludge squad, dude. That's right. Let's go.
Sludge squad, he says. Agreed.
All right. Ready to rock and roll?
Yeah.
You got whatever you're going to do, Lucas?
Give me 2 seconds to get back to it. There we go.
All right, here we go. Welcome to Best in Faction.
The next generation.
And now, excerpts from our great friend Noah Badome's "'Twas a Night Before Slaneshmus." 'Twas the night before Slaneshmus, when all through the land not a heretic was stirring, not even a brigand. God damn it, that doesn't work. The machine spirit was idle, appeased in prayer, in hopes that battle soon would be there. The guardsmen were nestled, all snug in their beds, while visions of dying by the millions danced in their heads. And the servitor in its vestibule, and I in my throne, had fallen asleep to the paladin's engine drone.
I'm Tyler.
Was that an experience?
That was beautiful.
Excellent.
And I am Nick.
All right.
And I'm Lucas.
And today is the day of days, brothers. Our boy has arrived, and he has brought with him the news. That was like 4 different biblical references at once. I'm on a fire tonight. And I'm on fire because we are bringing you coverage of Merry Slaaneshmas 2022. It's the biggest event, or biggest independently run event in the Pacific Northwest. We have been looking forward to it for a long time. It is in many ways the culmination of the Pacific Northwest season. It was a massive event. Full-on major status. We'll talk about the details in a sec, but we are going to bring you coverage of all 3 of our runs. And spoiler alert, some of us did pretty damn good, so you're going to want to stick around to hear all about that. But before we jump into the excitement that is every single one of these damn games, how you boys doing this week? How you doing, Lucas?
I'm doing pretty well, man. I'm thinking about all sorts of new hobby projects. Did have a ton of fun at Slaneshmus. Really excited about the game right now. Where's my mustache? It's completely gone, sir. Trust me, you don't want to see me with what I would call a mustache. Doesn't look good. But yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with the game, but I also have been neglecting hobby a little bit recently. So what I'm really excited right now about is hobby projects. So starting up a new squad of commandos, continuing slow progress on my knights, and I might over winter break start painting some Night Lords because I think they're really sick. So just super pumped about hobby right now. And other than that, just generally doing well. Slaneshmus was a lot of fun. It was great to see some buddies of mine do really, really well. And yeah, just a great event. And basically everyone was there, which was the best thing, right? Like there were only a few of the homies who weren't able to make it out. And we definitely missed them. But like 99% of the crew was there and it was sick. So yeah, it's been a great week. How about you, Nick? How you doing?
Doing well, dude. I'm finally feeling like myself again. After a tournament, I'm usually like pretty tired the first like 1 or 2 days back, especially a 6th rounder such as this. I think we got back at like, I don't know, close to 1 a.m. So I was a little bit of a shell for like Monday and Tuesday. But I mean, I'm excited to play 40K again. Lucas and I, we put a practice game yesterday, and that's got me all pumped up. Coming soon to you as a bit rip. Also, what else? Despite our usual homies showing up for Slaneshmus, which was super fun, I'm also very excited because we got to meet another crew from Portland that has been simultaneously training in the local RTTs that we've been missing out on. So I'm signed up for one of their RTTs on the 17th. I was very excited to meet some of those people and actually play against some of those people. And I'm looking forward to, get to know them better and getting to expand our local crew down here. So that's exciting. How about yourself, Tyler?
Dude, I am doing fan-freaking-tastic. And by that I mean absolutely exhausted. This past week was finals week in grad school, which, why did I go to a 6-rounder the weekend before finals week? Great question. It was a terrible decision, but I'm glad I made it. So I am beat, but I'm also super excited to be done with that nonsense and on to some more of the good stuff. That beer rep that Lucas and I made it a couple weeks ago dropped recently. That's been a big success. GSC versus Orcs. Go check it out on the YouTubes. I think it's free, which is great. So that was a ton of fun. I am living and loving my new facial hairstyle. Tournament stashes are the way of the future. Lucas, you are rocking a tournament stash at LVO, just to be clear. You are not allowed to shave between now and Vegas, at least your upper lip. If you want to grow everything as much as you can and shave down to that, or just grow that, either way is fine. I would recommend growing everything. It looks a little bit less heinous, but it's happening. For those of y'all who are not watching on live, I'm sporting what I think is a fairly professional mustache. I didn't grab any pictures of it at its prime, glued up all handlebar style to throw in this. Maybe hit me up in the Discord if you want to see what that looked like. But it was a vibe. So I'm feeling great. The mustache is powerful, and we got some great 40K to talk about this week. So let's get right into the main event, the only event. It's going to be a long event. Buckle in, boys. We're talking about Merry Slaaneshmas 2022 in Ocean Shores, Washington, just out past Aberdeen, run by our boy, the man, the myth, the legend, Jason Bird. Huge shout out to him, and also huge shout out to Mitch Pelham of Best in Faction, the original generation, for head TOing and judging as well. He did a fantastic job this weekend. So big ups for them. Nick, you want to run us through the deets on Slaneshmus overall?
Yeah, so Slaneshmus originally was clocking in, I think, at around 115 people. Due to some people having to drop from weather and just like general last-minute drops, we did fire off on Saturday morning with 94 people, which, to be clear, I believe is the largest Slaneshmus ever. I think last year's was like 76
Easily.
People.
Yeah, this is the biggest Slaneshmus for sure.
Yeah, and we've been going. I went in 2019. I went in 2021. Going again here, 2022. It is a 6-round major, and yes, it is 6 rounds. It doesn't say it's 6 rounds and then stops at 5. It is actually a full 6-round event. Guard were allowed at this event. I know, so for a lot of people, Guard came out, what was it, like 2 weeks ago at this point? They came out a week before this tournament, basically the day of list lock, so hence like it was extended by a day. But Jason did allow Guard at the event. However, he said, like, you got to have the new book, no unreleased models, so like no Horsey Boy, no horses, no Ursula Creed, no Dorn. I think those are the 4 big ones. And also no data slate, because the data slate was written with the 8th edition codex in mind. And there are some things that were ported over from the data slate that are now rolled into the Guard codex.
If you're listening to this on the podcast feed or just in a couple of days, hopefully we will soon know what the LVO rulings are for Guard. These rulings were made as sort of the best guess of what we think is going to happen, or at least that Jason thought, which is why we made that decision. We realized that like only a week with a new codex, very questionable, but that was the call that was made so we could get LVO practice. We'll see if that ends up panning out, but just there's sort of the justification there. Go on, Nick. Sorry.
Yep. No worries. It is player place terrain, just like our last event. Bird does do this thing though, where he's designed a lot of tables with player place terrain in mind. So these top tables are kind of like his 3D printed terrain, which I'd say are like, he's got it down to a pretty good science at this point. It's like a good amount of L's, good amount of like, it's got like a nice wood, something like maybe like not like a L, but like some sort of line of sight blocking terrain that like is basically like the equivalent of a crate. The mid tables, there are a mix of bird terrain and FLG terrain in like the mid tables there. And I believe that they were following the FLG guideline for like certain ruins were first floor blocking, but no magic boxes. I never played on FLG table myself, so if you guys did, you'll have to let us know. And then for the like overall tournament scoring, overall like pairing, it is random pairings within your win bracket. So if I'm like 3-0 and Lucas is 3-0, there's a chance we could play, even if like we are 50 points apart in battle points. And then the overall placings at the end of the event were battle point based. So no strength of schedule or like win path or anything for this event. This is a fairly traditional tournament style.
Yeah, for sure. Going to break on into our event review, hit on some of the points that we love to mention about any good event from an anybody perspective, you know. So a couple things we want to run down here. We got table height, bathrooms, access to water, food, terrain, and mission pack. Start off with the table height. Tables at this event were probably about 40 to 42 inches off the ground, which is, I think, basically the bog standard banquet table kind of thing. Not, you know, ideal, but not terrible. You guys, I assume, would agree?
Yeah, it was... I definitely have to hunch over a bit, but I'm kind of like a abnormally, you know, proportioned human.
You are a scarecrow, yeah.
And I'm short, so I can reach across the table, which is great.
Yeah, I think the tables are pretty average. Bathroom situation was good. We are in the convention center. There's just plenty of access. Nice and easy. The access to water was definitely upgraded from last year. I don't know if you guys remember this, but I don't think they had that water filtration.
Yeah, they just had
right?
No, I think they had a water fountain, but they've replaced it now with a water bottle fill station, which, unfortunate if you don't bring a water bottle, but if you're not bringing a water bottle to events, my guy, what are you doing? Really convenient because it's very fast. If you're in need of water quickly, I was a big fan of that it was free, it was there, and it was also like out of the way. So if a queue built up, it wasn't going to get in the way of any tournaments. It was in the main lobby. That worked out well.
Big upgrade from last year.
Yeah. Bird terrain.
There were also people
like
passing out water, too, which was very nice.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't even notice that because I was locked and loaded, but that's great. As Nick said, Bird terrain has gotten pretty dialed in on what it wants to do with player placed. Bird does a couple things slightly different from FLG. The big thing is that all pieces are 4 inches. He doesn't do any sixers, which is very nice. I think FLG should really adopt that, but that's another story. But then also, like, a lot of his pieces, especially on the high tables, are this particular breed of, like, not giant L's, just sort of medium L's with pretty chonky bases. And that leads to sort of the opposite of effect of first floor, where it says you can be pretty safe, but you have to be a little bit further back than you would have to be on some other terrain sets that I've seen with L's. So it ends up being a pretty good balance for melee and shooting. Melee has the benefit of everything being 4s and then being L's, so it's pretty easy to build really safe areas. But shooting has the benefit that you have to be a little bit further back if you're going to take full advantage of that, and I think the terrain works really well for that reason. And as you'll see, the top ends up being all over the place on the melee shooting, what have you. The mission pack, Bird decided to play backwards, which was a fun little surprise. So we played 33, 32, 31, 23, 22, and then skipped 21, which is Abandoned Sanctuaries, because Bird hates that, and played Data Scry instead. I think this is a good 6 missions to play. I don't love it as an order of 6 missions to play, but it was
playing.
It was fine.
The only thing I'm a little on is playing 2 sweeping clears.
Yeah.
That's a little goofy, but it does include some fun ones. Tide of Conviction, I think, is one of the best missions, and Data Scry is
at least
binary,
different.
but it's fun. At least it's different than the norm.
Data Scry is a little bit rough as a finals mission, but I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah, I think Prio's round 1 is also a little awkward. I generally feel bad playing Prios into randos because there's a lot of specifics with that mission that people don't tend to get the first couple times around.
Yeah, honestly, I kind of like Prios later in a packet, but
I think Prios is like a closing out day 1 is pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, so overall, though, I would say this event was a smashing success.
A good packet.
Yeah, it was great. We skipped Recover the Relics, which everyone loves.
Yes.
Yeah, Bird refuses to run Recover the Relics and refuses to run Abandoned Sanctuaries. So it's basically which one of the other 6 missions you're not going to play. And I agree with Lucas. You should not play probably Conversion. You should probably play Death and Zeal and skip Conversion, in my personal opinion.
I agree.
But skipping Bomber instead is not the end of the world. That mission is considered pretty boring by most people.
Nothing mission. Generic.
Anyway, let's run through the armies, and as has become tradition at this point, 2 of these you've seen plenty of times. One of them is brand new. So we'll start off with our boy Luke, with his boy the Don, and his dogs, the dogs. What do you got, Lucas?
The army. I'm playing Abaddon and 11 War Dogs. Nick has to, turn off his camera to just giggle at me for a second. Being a clown, undoubtedly. We got a super heavy detachment of House Herpetrax. I feel like most folks have settled on Herpetrax as the standard household for Chaos Knights. It's just really solid. Extra wounds is great. And Iconoclast is also where you want to be. So super heavy detachment of Herpetrax. We got a Brigand. That is a Melta Gatling Cannon Warpborn Stalker. My Brigand and my 6 Chain Cannon Stalkers in this list all will have the Mortar hats, so it's 7 indirect cannons altogether. We got an Executioner with Worthy Offerings and Mirror of Fates, the box standard Zinch dude. We got 3 Chain Gun Fist Stalkers with those Havoc Launchers. We got Mark of the Dread Knight and the Helm of Dogs on one of the guys. We got 3 more Stalkers with the Mortar hats, Chain Cannons, and Fists. We got 3 Stackers with Melta and Sword. No upgrades on them. Couldn't afford the Beguiling Majesty. And then we've got Abaddon with all of his Warlord traits. Of particular note, I did check with we have Abaddon and Plague Marines has been played at Birds events and things, so it was also allowed for Chaos Knights to take 1 relic via the Nephilim stratagem, even though Abaddon is not a Chaos Knights model and he is my Warlord. Some tournaments don't allow that, some do. I don't think the rule should work that way, but if the tournament's going to allow it, I'm definitely going to fork over a CP for Helm of Dogs. So that's what I did. So this list does have the Helm of Dogs with the 11s Baby Knights, which you don't see everywhere.
Yeah, and I also believe that is the current ruling. That was the current ruling for the latest FLG tournament for SoCal. Yep. And if they continue to port that pack over to LVO, then that's how it's going to be ruled at LVO. So might as well practice with the rules they're going to let you use there.
Yep, I think that the 2 cases where we're going to see the most is with, at least in our local meta, Abaddon with the Stench Vats, and then Abaddon with the Helm of Dogs.
Yep.
Those are both really solid combos if that is allowed. But definitely, if you're thinking about this list, check with your TO first, because it makes the list a lot worse to not have the Lieutenant rerolls.
Yeah, I know at Atomic City Warzone last time around, Ryan Lynn also managed to win that tournament with the Unwilling Orb on his Magus, acquired via similar means. So it gets use. We've had a couple of little tweaks to this other than the dog hat getting back in there recently. Can you talk a little bit about you keep calling them the indirect hats, those are what, Havoc Launchers? What was the thought process on bringing all those in basically out of nowhere, and what had to get cut in order to fit them in?
What had to get cut is really where you start. And it was the the Slaanesh upgrade and the Nurgle upgrade. The Nurgle upgrade is 25 points, and it gives out a 6-inch aura of -1 strength. I was just finding that is such a small area of the map when, he has to kind of be behind other knights whose bases are almost 4 inches. The aura is basically 2 inches, and that's really bad. So that got cut right away. And then I also cut Beguiling Majesty. The idea was I actually really like Beguiling Majesty, but I think for the mortars to be effective, they have to have a certain amount of volume. Otherwise, they're just kind of incidental, whatever. And 4 definitely was not enough, how many would it be? I wanted 4 more, basically. So I took 4 more by dropping the 20-point Beguiling Majesty. As it turned out in this event, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like this event was relatively elite. There was a lot of people running lots of tanks, lots of big demons, lots of relatively tough units. I don't actually think that the indirect launchers helped me that much at all. At least in terms of our local tournament scene, I'm definitely going to be dropping them in the future, because I would have much rather had those 2 blessings to help combat some of the bigger units that are out there.
Lucas, how many Kasrkin did you play against this weekend?
The thing, it's not good into Kasrkin. They'll have a 2-up armor save.
Oh, a 2-up? What? Oh, because they're
4-up armor,
base.
3-up indirect, 2-up for if they're just touching cover.
I doubt they'll be touching cover, though, because very few things are first floor blocking on bird terrain.
But doesn't every table now have at least one that's first floor blocking? So he's going to have somewhere
not
to...
at all.
No?
Not on bird terrain.
Only
That's
FLG
on FLG
tables
terrain.
do that, not on bird terrain.
So maybe they'll have a 3-up. Either way, I usually just find them effective against things with a 4-up save or worse. So it has to have basically a 6-up or a 5-up armor, or rely on an invuln like a Harlequin. That's where
it's got to be an elf.
They can pull their weight. Yeah,
an elf or a Repentia.
Yes.
Yeah, Repentia is their ideal target.
I hate that, dude.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So, yeah,
All right, cool.
Given how much elite stuff was in our meta, definitely going back to the upgrades for this list in our local meta in the near future.
What about for Vegas? What do you think there?
Probably putting the upgrades back on. I think I'll make better use of them there.
Okay, sounds good. All right, moving on to myself. I've been calling my Forces of the Hive Mind list worse than the sum of its parts. So naturally, as I've pivoted to mono GSC, this list is entitled "The Half is Greater Than the Whole." And man, oh man, is this list so much better than what I've been playing for a long time. All right. If you follow mono GSC, which you probably don't, but if you do, this is going to sound very familiar to you. This is a list, this prototype that was first really brought out and showed off by Eric Lathuris at WTC this year. There's been a couple of minor tweaks to it since then. Oh, I'm literally missing one of the characters. I'll tell you about him in a sec. But it's generally that the sort of meta has shifted past this. This is no longer considered in the GSC community to be the cream of the crop, but it's a great training wheels list in my mind. And it also required not as much hobby to make it happen on the table, as I'll talk at the end of the show about what's coming next. But the list itself, it's Myriad Cult, which is custom. So I have Ignore modifiers to hit and ballistic skill for industrial weapons, Baby Transhuman on the whole army, so you can't wound me on 2s, 6-up Feel No Pain on bikes and vehicles, and +1 AP on 6s to wound and melee. I'm going to drop that for +1 Pylon and Consolidate going forward, but I want to try it. The list itself is a singular battalion, features a Primus, who's the Warlord, an Acolyte Icon Ward, 3 squads of 5 naked Acolytes, 8 Acolytes with Hand Flamers, and a Perfect Ambush, which lets them, on the turn they arrive, treat a single unit as crossfired and exposed. 20 Neos with 4 Seismics, 20 Neos with 4 Seismics that deep strike at 3 inches. 3 squads of 10 Jackals, baby. Bikes on bikes on bikes. Each is a squad of 8 dudes and 2 quads. The quads have heavy flamers, and 2 of the dudes, the leader and one other, have a demolition charge. We got ourselves a Kellenwolf with Wormtooth rounds, which makes him quite a nasty customer. The Nexos with Cranial Inlay that lets him make phone calls more often, and also 5-up CP regen while he's on the table. I've got a Sanctus with the turn 1 outflank. He's not listed here because I'm an idiot, and I just wrote this from memory. And then 10 Pure Strain Gene Stealers with that good old-fashioned pregame move, which I'm sure you've seen before. And then 3 Rock Grinders with heavy seismic cannons and caches of demolition charges. This list is a lot of bodies, and it is a menace on the tabletop. If you have not played in a mono GSC yet, and you're going to Vegas, I'm going to kick your butt if you don't know what you're doing. So get some reps into this. It's nonsense.
Yeah. Definitely, it would take a while to explain all the intricacies of this list, but seeing as a lot of people haven't seen GSC for like a year, could you like very quickly go over what makes it scary? Like, what is Crossfire and Expose?
That's a great place to start.
Just describe this list in like 3 sentences or something. 4
Yeah,
sentences.
so I'll explain what Crossfire and Exposed are, and then I'll explain to you what the list does. Crossfire is a system, kind of like Judgment, or Marker Lights, where I have tokens that I can assign to units. And you assign those tokens in a couple different ways. The Nexos assigns them in the command phase to anybody. And then the other big way is that if I hit a unit with 5 shots at 1 damage or 1 shot at multi-damage, most notably in this case would be the Sanctus. He auto-hits with a 2 damage weapon, so he just point and click, has token. You receive a Crossfire token. While you have a Crossfire token, everyone else shooting at you is +1 to hit if they're GSC. Just flatly +1 to hit. And now we move into Exposure, which is the second level. Now Exposure says, do you have a Crossfire token? Yes, great. Okay, now we'll check if you're exposed. And to check if you're exposed, I have to draw a line, millimeter in thickness, from any point on any model in the unit that is shooting at you to any point on any model in another unit, also of mine, that traces line of sight, so you can't go over obscuring, or like, a solid hill or something, that also crosses over the unit that has a token on it. And Exposed is +1 to wound, and if you're within 12, it also ignores cover of all kinds. So what this means is a lot of things that seem like decent data sheets, decent guns, is all only in ranged. Decent guns turn out to be insane guns. So, for example, the seismic cannons are... and the one thing I'll mention before I mention this, we also, very importantly, have a stratagem for 1 CP for +1 damage to industrial weapons. So the seismic cannons, let's say you want to shoot at a squad of intercessors. The seismic cannons are either from the squad of neophytes. Each one is either 3 shots at 622 or 6 shots at 411. Let's say I'm shooting a squad of intercessors out in the open because it's funny. Well, I give this unit +1 damage and fire the small shots. I now have 24 shots, and you're crossfired. So I'll hit you on 3s, and I'll reroll 1s from the Primus. And then I'll be strength 4 +1 to wound, so I'll wound you on 3s, rerolling 1s from the Primus. And that's 24 2-damage shots with +1 to hit and wound, with rerolls 1s to hit and wound.
And ignoring all benefits of cover.
Ignoring all cover. So no light, no dense, no nothing.
Yep. No heavy,
it's silly. The output is very strong. The Flamer's very strong. The demo charge is very strong. And the shenanigans in this list are off the chart. So the fact that everyone's deep striking at 3 or 6 inches, because remember, all GSC drops at 6 if it doesn't want to charge, or 8 if it does. Nonsense. And then the other thing that you really have to understand as far as how this list plays, this list is a pressure list. Like, I am very used to playing very sit back and tricksy wixy and what's going on. No. This list goes. The bikes pregame move 9, they move 14. So turn 1, that unit goes 23 inches and then charges. Hilarious. If it wants to. Or if it doesn't want to charge, it could auto-advance 6 for a CP, go 29, and then fire and fade 7, and go 36 inches without charging.
Lol. Right.
And then if your unit is stupid, I'll 1 CP turn off your heroic interventions. Zoom. So that's the thing. The list is very fast, applies a lot of pressure very quickly. It does a lot of damage, and then it has really good secondaries. I'll talk about the secondaries as they come up in the games, but they score real well.
Yep.
Cool. So that's the GSC. You'll be hearing about this for a long time. So if you didn't catch everything the first time, don't worry about it. Moving on over to Nick, our boy, dreaming of beaming. Where's the photo, Nick? Where's the dreaming of beaming?
We'll try
get
to,
it. You start talking, I'll get it up there in a minute.
All right. So this is my dreaming of beaming list. Finally the dwarves have arrived for the second time. I did bring the same exact list to Atomic City Warzone, so because of that, I won't go over it super in depth. This is the exact same list I brought to our tournament about a month ago. So it's a Ymir battalion. Ymir being the sub-faction that gives everything a 5-up invuln, unless you have a 2-up armor, which is the Hecaton Land Fortresses, a 4-up invuln. It has got a Call as my warlord. He has a long list, Grudge's End. That is the fun combo that allows him to snipe you if you have a judgment token on you, and hits auto wound if you have a judgment token on you. And he's got a nice gun that's AP2, 2 damage, 4 shots. Long list is also, in my opinion, kind of defines how the army plays. We'll talk about it a bit here, later on. But that is the very strong warlord trait that when an enemy unit dies with a judgment token on it, at the end of that phase, you may pick a unit that your warlord can see and throw a judgment token on it. It lets you, once you get judgment on people, it's just so sticky. It's very silly. We got the Iron Master upgraded to the Forge Master and Master Armor Warlord traits. So that's the guy who can 0 out of damage on the land trains and also heal them for flat 4. He can also have a Votann within 6 of him, reduce a War Gear stratagem by 1. So dude just does everything. We got a Grimnir, that's the Wizard. He has the Murmuring Stave, so he can action cast. He knows 3 spells. Give me a CP. Give a core character +1 toughness 6 of Feel No Pain and targeted smite. Then we just got like 3 squads of troops. They got a med pack that gives them marks of Zinch and also can bring some guys back for a CP. We got the heavy hitters in the list, the 3 squads of 5 berserks with the concussion mauls, 2 squads of 3 pioneers with all the upgrades. So they got like ignore light and dense and a little minigun. Most importantly, they have the searchlight, which gives them access to the 1 CP, give a unit a judgment token when it's hit by an attack. And then we got the big, shooty, scary threat in the list, the Hecaton Land Fortresses with the big beam, 4 little beams, and the scanner they get for free. And they start with 2 CP. So yeah.
Very nice. So they're just not a single point that you felt needed changing between Atomic City and now?
So the upgrades are very small. What's really cool is you can definitely customize. Like, I was debating trying to find some points maybe for the comms on the Pioneers. The comms are very cool because they have, when they're within 24 of the call, they get Captain Aura, which is pretty good for your bikes when they're zipping out. But I mean, that's like 5 points here and there. You can't really cut any models from these squads because they're all at min squad size. So changing things around would be changing things around a lot. And I think the only big change that you could see in this list is like swap a squad of Zerks for a squad of bikes. But I just kind of learned to play a little more conservatively with the bikes. After Atomic City, I'm like, I don't really want to play with less than 15 Zerks. And after this tournament, I really don't want to play with less than 15 Zerks. So
makes sense to me. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. All right. There we go. Got our wonderful photos. Here's a look at Nick's list first of all, which is great.
Yep. So that is my army.
Very nice.
People who are live and are watching this later will definitely notice that it does not take up a lot of space on the board, but is deceptively will stick around for quite a while.
Yeah. Here's our fun photos. The Dreamin' of Beamin' meme made by Tanner, and I've gone ahead and thrown in a photo here of me with my mustache fully up and running. That was the nonsense that people who faced me at a tournament had to look in the eyes, and unfortunately lose to for some of them. I could not imagine. All right, moving forward, we walk on in. Let's pregame this a little bit more before we jump in. So we're feeling unlocked and ready. Guard is out. There are, 6 guard players I think we ended up with in attendance?
Yep. And
a whole bunch of other homies that we know about pretty well. How are you guys feeling going into this event? And what are you scared of? I guess is the big.
Let's start with Lucas. What's up, Lucas?
Yeah.
What are you scared of?
Well, we got a rarity, which as much as we love Jason Bird, this is the one thing that irks me about his tournaments is we very rarely get to see lists until like the day of the tournament. But hallelujah for Slaneshmus, we got him a week early, and so I knew whatever
miracle, brother. Lists are coming early this year.
We knew the distributions of who was playing what, and Chaos Knights really don't like the look of heavy shooting armies. So I was a little bit worried about Guard. I did win the one practice game I've played in them so far, but that was like the first game where he didn't really, we didn't understand like basic matchup fundamentals yet, and we're both kind of learning. And so I was very nervous about Guard, and I'm also very nervous about Tau, obviously, because they can blow me up. There's only one Votann, luckily, but unfortunately it's Nick, and that is a horrible matchup. So if I hit Nick as well, I'm also taking an L. So yeah, feeling a little nervous about all the shooting. But I've got a good Demons matchup, and there's a fair number of Tyranid players and such, and I feel confident into them. So, I'm feeling good. I'm definitely hoping to... My goal is 5-1 for this event headed in, right? I figure at some point I'm going to hit, a solid player who's playing a good army, and they just outplay me or something like that. Or there's always the chance, again, I could pair it against a shooting army, go second, and lose 5 dogs, and it's basically over. So, yeah, that's how I'm feeling. How about you, Nick? What are your goals for the weekend? How are you feeling coming in?
Yeah, dude. So I came off Atomic City, going 4-1. Unfortunately, losing my one game just because of misreading a secondary. So this time I was reading the book a bunch. I'm like, I'm not getting any rules wrong this time, dude. We're not dropping a game to that. We'll drop a game to someone beating me. That's fine. We're not dropping a game because of my own illiteracy. That's the goal. So I'm scared of Guard. I had one practice game into Guard. And I won, but it was very swingy. And I'm a few more reps, and I think the Guard player might be able to beat me. I'm also spooked of Demons because I know their Votann, in my opinion, folds to high pressure and also folds to better shooting armies. Demons are a high pressure list that I've had no practice into. Unfortunately, I've not been able to. I practiced into Guard instead of Demons because I was like, Demons I could probably figure out. Guard, I need to see if this just kills me instantly. What else? I'm actually spooked of Blood Angels. They're another very high pressure army. And I know Lucas and I played a practice game one time when I was messing around with a GTL list, and he just kind of denied my primary and I lost. So I'm like, whoops. So yeah, spooked of that. Spooked of the Mortals, T-Suns, Flamers lists that have been cropping up all over the UK. But I'm like, I don't really know many T-Suns players. So yeah, once we saw the list that I was definitely the most scared of, and I think it's the Boogeyman list that everyone was scared of, was the 11 Lehman Russ tank list played by Hank Adams. This list has 6 mortars, a commissar, and 11 Lehman Russes, 3 of which are the mini railgun, so ignoring inbones, which puts me on a 6-up armor. And I am terrified of that list. Basically, everyone was like, you think you can beat that list? I'm like, I think I kill 4 Russes and then lose. So the whole weekend I was like, don't hit that, and don't hit Tau. Tau's another army that I think they have to full commit, and if they bounce, I win. But if they don't bounce, I'm in it for a hard game. So yeah, that's a lot of different things I'm scared of, but mostly guard. What about Tyler, dude? What are the GSC scared of? Do they fear anything?
Absolutely nothing, brother. No, I'm kidding. GSC is an army that I have gotten a number of reps with before this event, but this event is absolutely like my opportunity to get high quality reps for them. This was like, okay, let's take them to an event. Let's see how it goes. This is a very hard left turn. It plays very different than what I'm used to. So I went into this event with some very tempered expectations. If I go 3-3, I'll be a little bummed, but let's go 4-2. 5-1 would be sick. But like, I'm going to mess something up, probably. This is also an army, this is also a field that has a couple things that I am personally very scared of with GSC, matchups wise. The biggest thing is Flamers. God, did GSC not like Flamers. And man, oh man, are there a lot of Flamers at this event. I have played into Demons a number of times at GSC to mixed success. I've done well. But a single squad of 6 Flamers with the max shots strat and reroll ones to wound kills all 40 neophytes in one volley.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so I can't let that happen. Fortunately for me, most of the Flamers that are there are not Be'lakor Flamers. Not a lot of people are bringing Be'lakor, and the ones that are have weirdly small numbers of Flamers. So I can usually get around that because I can apply so much pressure, and I have the thing that I understand about GSC is we have 2 different turn-off Overwatch stratagems, which is just so juicy. And like I said, we're really, really fast. So if the Flamers are on the table, I can really easily tag them, and if there's no Be'lakor, that means they're not shooting that turn. And if they're not on the table, then I get to play the crazy big brain game of can I screen them out, which I usually can because I'm dropping layers of Deep Strike, and my big guns that are dropping in those Neophyte squads are 24-inch range. So that's interesting. That's number 1. Number 2 is guard. We'll talk a lot more about the guard matchup later, but fundamentally, I thought it was basically unwinnable. If you are playing it right, because guard have not 1 CP, 0 CP. They order their entire army to turn into infiltrators, and my army is a whole lot of Deep Strike. So you telling me I can't drop within 12 of anything is game-ending for me. That's real bad. Specifically our boy Max, who saw the Officer of the Fleet strat, said, oh, Tyler likes to Deep Strike. Screw you, Tyler. And put him directly in the list and then told me about it because he thought it was so funny. The Officer of the Fleet, if you all don't know, is a 25-point model that does absolutely jack all. But it unlocks a 2 CP strat that says that unit in reserves can't come in next turn. Piss off. I hate that. It's dumb. I'm terrified of it. I don't want to play into that. So those are the 2 things that I'm really scared of. I feel like my Leagues matchup is pretty good. I feel like my Tau matchup is really good, especially as people are playing more and more elite Tau. If your Tau has 1 unit of Crisis and 2 Riptides, I am, boom, ready for it. So we'll see what's going on, but those are my big concerns going in. Feeling pretty good. All right. So we roll in. We drive out the night before. The weather ends up not being so terrible. There was a lot of concern about weather for this event, but we get into our like refurbished apartment building turned hotel. It's quite nice. And we rock in day 1, round 1, and as we said, we're playing the packet backwards, so it's time for Prios, time for Secure Missing Artifacts, better known as Prios. Round 1, we're going to start off with a Chaos Demons matchup for our boy Lucas. Naj, you want to run us through what goes into this particular flavor of Chaos Demons?
Yeah, dude. So this is Chaos Demons list with a Patrol and a Vanguard. It has a Khorne Patrol, led by a Bloodthirster with Argath. That is the, I believe, axe that ignores wound caps. Not wound caps, ignores hit and wound mods and everything. Devastating Blow. That is the ability to ignore wound caps. And then Indomitable Onslaught, which I think is like extra attacks and stuff.
That's the Bloodthirster wound cap.
Okay, so this man's is simultaneously a wound cap, ignores wound caps, and ignores your hit and wound mods with like 3 damage sweeps. He's got 10 letters to finish that patrol. And then we got the meat of the list in a Tzeentch Vanguard. It's got Fluxmaster, He's one of the little like rats that walks around and casts.
What's a Fluxmaster?
He's a little caster demon.
Is the Herald of Tzeentch on
The
foot?
Herald on disc.
There you go.
On disc. A
He's
Herald on
disc.
disc. Thank you, Lucas. Please use the real names of units. Continue.
That's the name in the book, my guy.
Nope.
Why is it listed as that?
Continue.
Okay. It's got Boon, which buffs Tzeentch demons. It's got Infernal Flames, which bumps flavors. It's got a Demon Prince with wings, Bolt to Change, Gaze of Fate. So those are just like, targeted smites. I believe Gaze of Fate is the keep warp storm points and stuff. We got a Lock. That's the big scary demon in the list. It's got Infernal Gateway, Bolt to Change, Treason of Tzeentch. I don't even know what Treason of Tzeentch does. Never seen that spell. And then 3 squads of 6 flamers, 2 squads of 3 screamers, and 2 burning chariots. I didn't even know there were Tzeentch chariots. And it starts on 0 CP. Yep.
So
thanks for jumping on the grenade for me, Lucas. I'm terrified of this. How'd it go?
This was spooky. I have dealt with like 8 flamers before, 10 flamers, 12 flamers. I think I've even played against like 14, 15 flamers, but 18 was a new depth of hell that I had not realized existed. So this is a scary list. As we're going to see here, the game is going to be very, very close. It was a great game to Devin Cross. I think he's one of the guys up in Tacoma or Olympia who play somewhere on there who plays Chaos Demons. Great game, very well played and very close. As you can see here from the deployment, I basically lined up along my line. We should also talk about the attacker defender roll off because I got defender and I won the roll off and decided it was more important for me to put a crate in the middle than it was for him to move the first objective, because I would have loved to pull his objective toward me and then make that his priority. That's the ideal combo, but I really want to crate him in the middle. So I slap a crate in the middle. Devin, of course, correctly pulls his objective toward him. So I move mine safer and then pull his home field toward me as well. So we've kind of got this quartet of objectives all tucked in close to the middle. And then we got one off on the Devin's flank. That's a little bit safer. I end up going first because this is kind of one of the later tables with not like super incredible terrain. I am able to cut a whole host of angles turn 1, and I think I kill like 5 or 6 flamers, and that's my turn. I think I basically neuter a squad down to 1 guy. Pick up 3 points of tyranny. His rush turn, he basically what he did was he put the corn stuff in deep strike and the lure to change as well, and then just put all the rest of his trash on the table. His go turn was pretty scary because he jumped everything up to the middle. Forgot to cast Warp Ritual, but he kind of wanted the damage spells anyway, and he managed to burst down 2 of my Meltonites and then leave the last one on 4 wounds in combat. So I was not anticipating that much damage from half a demon's army, but it did allow me to collapse on that middle position with Abaddon and 4 or 5 dogs, and in that turn I hammer him pretty good. Like I kill the 6 flamers that are on the table, I kill both burning chariots, and I kill his demon prince, and I kill his Fluxmaster. So I hit him super duper hard. But then the issue is at this point I've left my backfield very undefended. There's just that wounded Melt of Sword stalker on it who's got 4 wounds and fell back. All my other knights are out to the flanks, pressuring the lower right objective or going around upper left. So my backfield is pretty open. So he slips the lock in back there and blasts me off the objective. And then I'm super careful to screen out with dogs the Bloodthirster coming in and charging Abaddon because he ignores wound caps. So I was super careful to screen that all out. So we had to have the Bloodthirster come down and clear off his priority target on the lower right. As I'm in the process of shooting at this Bloodthirster the turn after it comes down, we realize like, oh crap, he thought he had the 5 at Feel No Pain, and we didn't realize it until like 90% of the way through my shooting phase that the Feel No Pain is a Warlord trait, and so is the Ignore Wound Caps. And we're like, oh shoot, a Bloodthirster can't have 2 Warlord traits. So we're like, let's just play it as it lies. We're going to get rid of his like Ignore Wound Caps ability and replace it with the Warlord trait of 5 at Feel No Pain, because that was just an awkward moment of like crap, we forgot which rules were which. So yeah, that was a bit of a bummer. We kind of had to like patchwork fix that. But we worked it out, and Abaddon ended up failing his charge. The Bloodthirster got to smash some more stuff around. It ended up coming down to a super close game because the turn after the big demons dropped, I didn't really do any damage to them at all. So it meant they got a second turn of just smashing through my army. Devin, of course, did pretty well on Reality Rebels. Chaos Demons always do. And for Bring It Down, he obviously maxed it. And Warp Ritual, I did manage to deny that until turn 5 because I killed his Flux Master and Demon Prince so quickly. The Lord of Change wanted to be casting damage spells, so Warp Ritual was kind of scary. And then for myself, obviously... What's up?
Did the Dawn ever go for the 4-up deny on that?
He only attempted it once, and that was on the last turn, and I failed it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But yeah, there was a point on turn 5 where we both kind of looking at each other, and the score was about like 60-60. And we're like, wow, this is going to be a razor close game. And we just both kind of sat at the table and pointed out all the different lines of play that could lead to X number of points. Oh, but then I could have a chance to steal Y points over here. It was super crazy. It was really fun to like collaborate in the end game like that, to like find the most optimal game and play it. It was really cool. So definitely a really fun game to Devin. This was probably my favorite game of the weekend, honestly. There were some other really good ones, but like just in terms of how close it was and how well played it was for both of us, I thought it was really fun.
Was it you took no prisoners and Bring It Down?
Yep.
Is there nothing better than no prisoners for you?
Nope. My list usually takes 2 kill secondaries.
But what about Abhor or Assassinate?
Yeah, Assassinate conflicts with Bring.
Yeah, Assassinate was the other one I thought about. I was worried I wasn't going to kill his Herald.
Are the Chariots characters, or they're the not character version? Gotcha.
If they were characters, I would
Bring It
100%
Down.
take Assassinate.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I figured Bring It Down was a little safer.
Because it's both the big demons are 4 each, right?
Yep.
Both the big demons are 4. The Herald and the
DP is 1.
Not the Herald. The Chariots are 1 each, and the DP is 1 each.
Yeah, I got the Thirster, the DP, and the 2 Chariots.
Gotcha. All right, man. You are on some razor thin secondary margins there, my guy. Nice job pulling this one out.
Secondary game is not great.
No,
it's just Ruthless Tyranny holding down the fort.
Yikes. All right, cool.
All right.
Well, continuing on. Now that you've talked for a bunch, how about you talk some more, Lucas, and tell us about my opponent round 1, who is also playing a faction that fans of the show might have heard about before.
Yeah, so we got the homie playing Harpatrax Chaos Knights, the classic. You love to see it. He's got just 1 super heavy detachment. He's got a Rampager, a man after my heart, with Knight Diabolus. Bow to None. This is the House Harpatrax specific warlord trait that says he ignores hit and wound mods, and then also advance and charge penalties. So a pretty cool warlord trait. Panoply of the Cursed Knights for 2-up armor, and Blessing of the Dark Master for Blessing of the Dark Master. So we got a pretty badass Rampager dude. And then we got 2 Executioners. One's got the Subjugator Machine Spirit, so she can advance and shoot. We got 2 Executioners, one with the Cursed Rune of Fate, so she can have a Reflect Mortals ability. Kind of cute. 3 Carnivores, one of the dudes has the Blood Shield, and then 3 Stalkers with, I'm guessing, Chain Cannon and Fist.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah,
awesome.
Starting with 3 CP. So fairly bog standard, 1 Knight, 10 doggy list. How'd it go?
So, and Lucas, you're about to come back on. You don't need to mute yourself just yet. You are very experienced with this army, and almost all my pictures, by the way, are going to be at the end of my turn 1. You're experienced player with this army, and you're very experienced with player place terrain, and I know that you in particular have a lot of thoughts about player place training Chaos Knights. Could you walk us through a quick analysis of the player place situation on this table, and hey, who's clicking things? And what went so terribly wrong for the Chaos Knights player here?
Yeah, so when you're placing terrain and you're playing especially more aggressive knights like Chaos Knights on player place terrain, what you have to consider is the dichotomy between being able to move well and being able to hide well. So if you look at your matchup and they've got, X number of guns, and you think, is it more important right now to be able to move quickly toward them, to cover distance toward them, or is it more important to hide well so I can preserve my models in case they go first? That's really what you have to consider. The thing about GSE is while it's a lot of guns, a lot of them are very close range. So they're going to be trading unit for unit with you. So it's totally fine to allow them to shoot you. And then the only long range guns are like 9 shots. You can totally tank 9 shots in exchange for much better mobility options on your turn. So really what you want to be doing is creating open avenues for your knights, especially the war dogs, to move toward objectives. So really what this Chaos Knights player should have done, in my opinion, was those 2 kind of long, you kind of see at the very top center of the table, the thing on the right where it's like a long, narrow piece. He should be turning that 90 degrees so his knights can move parallel to it rather than you have to go perpendicular and up and around it. Or not perpendicular, but you get what I mean. Move parallel along it. So he really boxed himself in with this deployment, and I think you've done an expert job. Is this partway through your turn 1 charge phase?
This is the bottom of this is the end of turn 1.
Okay, so this is after your charge phase. So you have completely have you already killed one of his doggies?
Yeah, those Gene Stealers ate a dog.
Gene Stealers? That makes sense. Yeah, so he is boxed in. His turn 1 movement is going to be basically nothing, and that's bad.
Yeah, his thought process with some of this placement is like, fundamentally, you see executioners behind a wall full of holes. That seems like a good idea, right? You think, oh, I can walk up, I can touch them, I can shoot you, but turn 1, you can't shoot me, I'm behind a wall. That's great, but Chaos Knights are more about where you're standing than they are about your firing lanes, basically every single game in my experience. So I get to go first in this particular situation, which is going to be a recurrent theme this event. And going first with this list is stupidly overpowered because I get to use that scout move. And I send the first squad of bikes all the way up. We start 24 apart. They pregame 9. They move 14. I'm an inch away from him. And then I charge that Executioner up in the top there, and only the Executioner, which means that I'm not worried about getting hit in combat because he doesn't do anything. And I spent 1 CP after putting a token on him to ignore his Overwatch, so he couldn't even do anything that way if he wanted to. Not that I think it would have done any damage. And then in doing so, I string out a cross. And none of his Little Lancer characters, so there's no heroics to worry about, and he is completely move blocked in. Simultaneously, the Stealers run up the bottom there. We throw some long-range shots and some bikes and stuff to kill a knight, and we get that one. And the Stealers go in and finish it, which gets me a bunch of points. In this matchup, I took Ambush, Bring It Down, and RND. You're very familiar, I'm sure, with RND and Bring It Down. What you may be less familiar with is Brood Swarm, which is one of the GSC secondaries that I'm going to take in basically every single game. It has 4 questions, and they're all about, did I outnumber my opponent? Number of models on the table. Able is what we're talking about here, not units, models. Do I outnumber my opponent in my DZ? That's a point. Do I outnumber my opponent in No Man's Land? That's a point. Do I outnumber my opponent in their own DZ? That's a point. Do I outnumber my opponent on the table as a whole? That's a point. And 1, 2, 3, 4, buy 4, get 1 free. This secondary is very strong for GSC because we're the last horde in the game, and it's especially strong in something like Chaos Knights who don't have a lot of models. Both the 10, not the 10 bikes. A couple of the 10 bikes, like 3 or 4 of them, are in his DZ, as are all 10 of the Gene Stealers, so I outnumber him in his own DZ before he's moved a single model out of it. That's 5 points on Brood Swarm. I scored 5 points on Brood Swarm every single time.
25 point secondary, boys.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this guy James took this on the chin like a champ. He's a buddy of Jason's, Jason Bird's, and Bird walked around and saw that we were playing and just sort of chuckled. He apologized in advance to his friend what was going to happen to him. This guy didn't get a movement phase all game. I kept him boxed in there. He's not able to get past. As you can see here, I'm already on 4 objectives, and he at no point in time is standing on any other objective. I score 12s every single turn. It's a bummer.
Kind of what happened here is why I'm someone who runs an Executioner and a Brigand, so I have 2 knights that have no melee weapon, but like 3. Does this guy have 4
He has 4 Executioners.
You got to be really careful when you're running any more than 1 or 2, because your opponent can really move block you well if they can charge your knights and get right up close to you, and that is not what you want. That's kind of why I like all of the dudes at least having the fist, right? Because then they can clap a little bit.
Yeah. So Lucas, check out this tech. This is something I came up with today for our matchup, or for other matchups like this. You know how like there's that move where when you can, we talked about this at Atomic City. I did this in the Blood Angels guy, where if you charge just the wounded model, only get within an inch of it, then if you kill it, they can't fight. Obviously, you can't do that into Knights because they only have one model in the unit. But what I can do is throw a demo charge in combat. When I throw a demo charge in combat on 2s, I hit. Nat 2s always hit, and Nat 1s remove one of my own models.
Oh, that is cute.
So it could get a ton of movement by charging a stalker or something. You probably wouldn't Overwatch for 12 shots on 6s. It's not going to happen.
No.
Get in, huck a demo, and if I can roll 1/6 out of D6 dice, which is, not guaranteed, but very funny if it works, I get to throw a demo charge at you, first of all, which is going to do some good damage. But then in addition to that, I could just pull the one dude who's within an inch, and then suddenly, oops, you're not in combat anymore, and I'm still standing right in front of you.
That's really cool.
It's very funny. Mind you, is that better than just spending the 2 CP to just fire and fade? I don't know, but something that I thought was interesting. Anyway, this game...
Flex.
Yeah, we'll have to try it out. So this game doesn't end up going so hot. I basically just keep shooting Knights. The big Knight can walk over the bikes, but he can't walk over the little Knights. So putting him behind the little Knights also, unfortunately, didn't work out so hot. Final score here ends up being 97-37. I felt kind of bad about doing this to anyone. Moving on. Let's hear about, Knights on Knights on Knights. Nick is also playing into Knights. Lucas, you know Knights better than anyone, so why don't you walk us through the Tyrannus list that Naj is playing into round 1?
Sure. So this is actually a pretty big deviation from the usual Tyrannus Imperial Knights list that we see up here in the Northwest. We've got Defend the Realm and Layla of the Tyrants for Tyrannus. That's the once per turn reroll for every knight / flip things to 6s, and then Layla Defend the Realm is the extra CP if you're standing on objectives and stuff. Super heavy detachment of a Paladin. That's the battle cannon boy who gives out reroll 1s to hit and wound. He's a Princeps. He has the 4-pin wounding and shooting, and Revered Knight. I think that is fights first. We've got a Preceptor with Master Tactician. That's the use thing for free every turn. Use the stratagem. And then Judgment, that's Relic Rocket Launch.
Yeah, it's the Relic Missile Hat. No. I just went out.
That is the thing that gives +1 to wound to Hellverns. We've got 3 Warglaves, and we've got 1 more Warglaive starting with 1 CP. So, 4 melee dogs, 3 Hellverns, Paladin, Preceptor. How'd this go, Nick?
Yeah, so this one was pretty funny. I think they were adding some people to the event, like before it ran. So they threw up the first pairings, but it didn't get some people in there. So my original pairings was into Custodes. And then they repaired us, and I got paired into Noah Badome playing this list. And I'm like, oh, Noah round 1. There's 90, 3 people I could play into. Minus a few for a team. But Noah is someone who very much could win this tournament. Noah's a very good player. Noah regularly wins tournaments. He wins best overall a lot of the time too. He often goes 4-2, 4-1, 5-1. Dude's a champ. So we're like, okay, let's wake up. Game on. I was scared because theoretically Knights are one of the armies that I think can go toe-to-toe with Votann and shooting power, especially with Master Tactician giving that free use of calculated targeting data, which is the every 6 to wound is a mortal equal to the damage roll. And he does have the Knight of Mars, so once per game he can flip a 6, and once he becomes whatever it is, super over revowed or something, he can flip a 6 every turn with that Warlord trait in addition to the flip a 6 from his oath. So dude's just gonna be shooting mortals at me like crazy if I'm not careful.
Fortunately, this is a Preceptor and not the Crusader, because the Crusader is a little bit more potential mortals.
What is cool about this is the aura. It has an aura of 6 explode and shooting for all the baby knights, which is effectively mathematically +1 to hit, which is a bummer because my strategy is to park in a force and cross my fingers. And also an aura of +2 honor. So if he goes into his turn 2 with 3 honor, which is very easy because Noah's pretty good at playing this army, all of a sudden they can have 5 honor. They count as being vowed or whatever, and then they can use they can use calculated targeting data and flip a 6. So I got to be careful. I took Bring It Down because why not? I took Ancestors Are Watching, which is the Votann kill units with judgment tokens at the end of each phase. Extra points if you do it with 3. Lose points if there's still things alive with judgment, because that's a No Mercy, No Respite. So, like, yeah, I'm going to be killing his knights with judgment. And the last one that I took was, what is it? Raise the Banners High, because it's very easy for me to put up 2 banners and just get a 10 on that. I, as you can see here from this deployment, deployed a L basically as far forward as I could while still being on that objective. He won the defender roll-off, so he slammed a force in the middle. I also put a force in my backfield so that my tanks can deploy in the force, and then when they reveal themselves, they touch that L and are still in the forest. They just kind of like tilt a little bit, basically. They're like pretty well into the forest right there. They can just go forward a bit. Basically how this game goes, Noah blasts some dudes up, goes into the middle, starts renewing his oaths. He goes, hey, here's 2 knights in the middle objective you have to kill, or else I get a 12. Everything else is hiding. I think there was one autocannon knight that like ran down to the bottom and sniped some bikes, and I'm like, sure, dude. Yeah, I can't hide it from everything. He did put 2 Warglaves in reserves with like the encircling hound strat, which I thought was very smart. I don't really want to reveal myself, but I'm like, he's threatening a 12. I can't kill 2 dogs with 5 Zerkers, so I have to start shooting stuff now. Luckily, I'm able to get judgment on that big knight because it's really easy to, because the call can just see it from anywhere because terrain doesn't block it. And so I'm like, I got 1 judgment from that. I got 1 judgment for it being on the objective. Right, so it's got 2, right? We're pretty good here. So I just kind of pivot my trains out, touch that terrain. I realize I can hit the big one and beam through one in the middle with both of the like wagons. So my plan is send in 5 Zerks as insurance, just in case like the beams don't clear, and then like shoot this knight. So that's the knight with the 4 Pinville permanently. Whatever. I need to start doing damage to it now. I hit it pretty hard. It goes down to 12 after all the field no pains. And I fucking just ace both the dogs in the middle. And those 5 Zerks are just sitting there like, ooh, we charge? Guess not. And I'm like, all right, that's a bummer. I guess they're just sitting there, so I don't get free movement. I don't get my Ancestors Are Watching. Noah responds by his dogs come in from strat reserves. Everything is just like, we're killing 1 knight one train this turn. He does fail his 6's explode chant. Bit of a bummer. But he does get off the count as avowed chant or whatever. So then he's able to calculated targeting data one of the baby knights. He did calculated targeting data turn 1 to try to like do some mortals out of line of sight with judgment, because it is a D3+3 gun. So like he gets pretty lucky. He hits a like wagon pretty hard. I don't know if that was the best call because he ended up not doing any damage. But yeah, he pretty much sends his entire army into 1 train and kills 1 train. And then the other one lives. And then both of his big knights get 3 judgment. And that is when the strength of the judgment tokens comes online, because my Hearthkin, which are just the basic troops, have 28-inch range guns, but they're, hitting on 3s. Most of them are rerolling 1s because they're next to the call. Forced to hit auto wound at AP1, which puts that knight on a 4-up. So I just gun like one of the big knights down with my 56 bolter shots, and then I kill the other knight with like my land train. And then I get all the Zerkas out and charge every knight near me, and it's pretty much the game. So yeah, neither of us had played this matchup, so we both were kind of like, here's my models, like here's mine, and mine lived and his didn't. And he definitely knows some stuff, for next matchup. I definitely know some stuff for next matchup, and I'm looking forward to the next one. It does end with a 143 for the Votann, so whew, looks like that's a favorite matchup for me, guys.
Really, Votann shooting knights favored? Crazy, brother.
Hits on a wound. Pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you can tank their shooting as well.
The bolters can really add up against the big knights.
Oh yeah,
in a terrifying way.
Yeah, hits auto wound comboed with I can shoot you, but you can't shoot me is a bad day to be a big boy.
Yeah.
All right, so everyone's taking their round 1s to the bank. Some of us a little bit closer than others. Lucas. Getting in there by the skin of his teeth, and we're playing Death and Zeal, one of our sweep and clear style deployments. This is the one with sticky objectives, with kill a unit, flip an objective are the tertiaries. And we're starting off here with Lucas's round 2, playing into Creations of Bile. I'll run you through this list. We've got the Disco Lord with Flames of Spite. Is that the Mortals?
Yep. And
Yeah, so
rerolls
this
wound
dude,
in melee.
yeah, this dude does infinite damage to whatever he gets to touch. We got ourselves a mop with the usual stuff. We got 5 CSM. No Marcus Slanesh for no, cool, just 5 CSM. 10 possessed, 8 possessed. Skipping the other detachment, 10 more possessed, so 28 possessed. We got a Venom Crawler. Second patrol is led by the man, the myth, the legend, the Demon Prince with Hatred Incarnate and Galax the Decayed. Dude's a Chad. Another mop. This one is the one with Cursed Earth and with Warp Mark. That's interesting. We got 5 Legionnaires with the Balefire Tome out there casting Prescience. That third squad of Possessed I was talking about, they have the Black Rune of Damnation for that good -1 to wound. And of course, what's a CSM list without the Dawn himself? So we got a Dawn on Dawn violence kind of game going on. Creations of Bile, Lucas, how are we feeling?
Feeling okay. I definitely would have appreciated my debut against them not be on Death and Zeal. That is one of the missions where they can start very up close to you, and the whole shtick of Bile is they're going to cram themselves right down your throat. So I am deployed, and I've also lost on this mission to armies that cram themselves down my throat more than once. In the last
is that deployment?
This is deployment, yes.
Oh my gosh, I have never seen you deploy like such a cagey little weasel.
Yeah, dude.
What is going on?
I'm being a rat. So as we can see, my lovely opponent Justin Francis, one of the homies, just an all-around great lad, has positioned himself very aggressively. That big ball of red and black, kind of in the middle of his deployment zone, are his. There's actually 29 possessed. That was a list typo. There's 29 of these boys, and 10 of them have -1 to wound. And remember that he's bringing one back a turn on Warp Charge 5. So these guys are going to be very hard to peel up. We pick secondaries accordingly. This is not going to be a very finessey game with tons of shenanigans. It's just going to be who can kill who more efficiently and get the right movement to get to the right places. So I take accordingly. No prisoners. Kill his infantry. I'm going to have to do that. Assassination. Kill his characters. I'm going to have to do that at some point. And Ruthless Tyranny. Justin takes Bring It Down, obviously. He also takes Behind Enemy Lines. I think he figures if he goes first, he's going to play most of the game in my deployment zone, and I think that's correct. And the Long War. Take objectives from me. We're going to be fighting over the objectives. Seems straightforward to me. So, yeah, very luckily, I get to go first in this game. We can see that Justin won the Defender roll-off and slammed down a big... the big squares... the FLG pieces are windowless. So, yeah, he can hide in the bottom floor of those. Yep. So he slammed that down. So then I took my crates and put them, as I did to make the objective nice and in the open. I figure I wouldn't want to get stuck on the left side of the board far away from objectives. So I figure I'd play the top left objective with 1 or 2 little knights. We can see them kind of positioning toward the top of my deployment zone, and then concentrate most of my army with the Dog Hat and Abaddon along the bottom to play for that open objective. Luckily, I get to go first. As I said, I move on over. I target the 10 possessed that are kind of right behind the Black Rune squad because they're in front. I don't want to try to have to chew through that unit right away. Plus, I've got actually a great solution for the unit, and that is Abaddon, because -1 to wound doesn't really do anything when I'm wounding on, it'd be instead of 2s, I'm on 3s rerolling, and it puts them right on the 5-up invuln, and then D3 mortals as well all the time. It can hurt that unit really good. So I'm not too worried about that yet.
And Abaddon doesn't give a flying fuck about fight on death.
No. He's like, cool, you did 3 to me. Who's next?
Moving on.
Yeah. So yeah, I 2 CP6 explode against the 10 possessed that are right behind. Ace them, which is really great. The Zinch Knight in particular. We know that he can spike against AOC because it's very swingy with those 4-up armors, but Justin failed 4 out of 4 and he gunned down 4 possessed by himself. It's like, let's go, Zinch. He's my homie. So feeling really good after turn 1. Justin plows into my ranks. He gets a little bit further than I wanted him to because of a double 6 possessed charge. He only needed a 5 to get to where the targets he wanted to, but that allowed him to fully move block me, which was not what I was anticipating. I end up not being able to access that bottom right objective for the rest of the game because of that move block, actually. So, yeah, definitely unpleasant. And he kills, I think, 2 stalkers and gets the Tzeentch guy down low. My response is thunderdoming those 10 possessed with the Black Rune off the board with Abaddon. And then the rest of my army kind of does some patchwork shooting into the squad of possessed that's in the middle of the table. Which Justin also, like on turn 1 when he charged me, springboarded into the middle with the charge to get up nice and close to me. I do some incidental shooting into them. Don't do so well because they have Cursed Earth and they're toughness 6, so I kill like 3 of them or something like that. And in the process of this, on this turn, in the movement phase, this is where I make my first big mistake. The first like game-changing mistake, where I ended up losing me this game. I moved one of the stalkers onto the middle objective because he had no obsec on it. I figure I would be able to move block Abaddon with that because Abaddon can't go around crate, or can't go over, you'd have to go up and over the crate. So it's hard for him to go up and over that. So if I just put a dog right on next to that crate, like above it, but on the objective, I move block and Abaddon's progress into my deployment zone. I'm also flipping the objective from the possessed because they're not obsec. And then I decide to get cute and charge the dude in. I got a 3 damage sword. Maybe he'll do something cute, kill a couple guys. Maybe he'll fail his leadership check. End up not killing any of them. And then when Abaddon kills the 10 Black Rune possessed, they fight on death, pile in, and I kind of just do a cute -1 damage on one of the random dudes, and then remember that I kind of need it for the middle of the table. So the middle of the table dog just gets completely aced. I lose Ruthless Tyranny. Yikes. Justin gets a 12. His unit pile in, consolidates 6 inches directly toward my DZ, and then goes and kills the dog that I have in my DZ. And that is the first moment where the game really started turning south. The other moment was after that turn where I killed the Black Rune squad, Justin hits me with his characters. And this is what I know I need to be scared of at the end of the day, that possessed are nasty, they take forever to chew through, they can hit pretty darn hard, but it's the bile characters that are really scary, because if you have to kill them in melee, they're going to double up on value, and that's super bad. So I haven't had a chance to shoot at these characters yet. Or, I mean, I have had some chances, but it's just whiffed, and it is what it is. The characters plow on in, and one of the key matchups here is the Galax Prince swinging into Abaddon. It ends up being basically like 7 or 8 wounds, and we just kind of do some 4-ups. And if Abaddon rolls 1 more than average, or if he rolls average, he lives on 3, and if he rolls 1 under, then he dies. And the very last one I failed, I CP rerolled it and failed, and I'm like, well, damn it. So there's all sorts of swings like that in this game where, the characters are being hit by a fist, and if you make 1 too many invulns, all of a sudden the game completely changes, or 1 too few invulns in this case, and those kind of swings always don't feel super amazing when they don't work out in your favor, but they're just part of the game. So yeah, with that misplay and the Galax Prince clutching it out against Abaddon, I'm basically out of this game. I've got 4 dogs left. They're all over the table. They're not in good positions to score points. Justin's in my DZ. Game's basically over at that point. So I end up getting smashed pretty good, 46-95. Definitely a great game to Justin. He did exactly what he needed to, which was pressure me really quickly, give me the 30 possessed to chew on until I was worn down, and then clean up with the characters. And he executed that plan very well.
Very nice. I personally think it is fitting that you would get your butt kicked by a homie in round 2 of Slaneshmus. For those of y'all,
where have we seen that before?
For those of y'all who are not in on the scoop, last year at Slaneshmus, before we started the show, Lucas came up but was only able to play 2 rounds because he had another commitment he was going to have to go home for. So he drove 6 hours that day to play 2 games of Warhammer. And his second one, playing Thousand Suns just to mess around, was into me. He proceeds to kick my butt and then immediately drop, which was just incredibly disrespectful.
That was quite a disrespectful game. I'm genuinely so sorry for
you were also just like an asshole that entire game.
Yes,
if we had just had a very good game and you had won, no big deal. But man, that was
yikes, dude.
That was a move. So there's your There's your dice coming back to bite you for that. All right, cool. So there's your round 2. Moving on, we got my round 2 here. Which one of you knows sisters better? Want to tell me about OML?
Oh, dude, I played against OML last tournament, so I'm an expert.
Hell yeah, brother.
All right, OML is the funny subfaction that when your stuff dies, you get more miracle dice. He's got a Hospitaller, that's the feel no pain heal lady, a Repentia Superior, Celestine, Junith, that's the Armored Lady name character, a Palatine, that is the lieutenant. I don't actually know all this stuff that it's got on there. Blade of Sacrifice, Righteous Rage, Martyr's Strength, Emperor's Grace. I imagine this thing walks in and does a decent amount of damage in melee. And also provides some sort of, like, I think the Emperor's Grace is that thing where you spend a miracle dice to, like, do some sort of aura. Is it the turn off Invuln's aura or something in melee?
I think so. That sounds right.
Yeah. 3 squads of 5 Battle Sisters, 10 Novitiates, a Dogmata, that's the lady who hands out Feel No Pain, and she has the aura of, like, action shoot. She has Litany of Endearing Faith. I believe that is the, like, make a thing immune to psychic. And then Indomitable Belief. 3 Warsuits with Mace and Melta. 2 squads of 8 Repentia, a squad of 5 Dominions with Stormbolter to have access to that Blessed Bolt stratagem, 2 squads of 7 Zephyrim with a Pennant, 2 squads of 5 Retributors with Multi-Meltas and a single Cherub, and then 2 Rhinos, starting on 2 CP. So, important to note, no Morven in this list. Instead, has opted for the Armored Lady Chapter Master in the form of Junith.
Yeah, so before we even mention anything about this game, we got to talk about this dude. This dude's name is Andrew Johnson, and he is a legend. I walk up to the table, and I have been out-mustached so hard that I crumble internally. This man has hairs plucked from a Pegasus across his upper lip. Just utterly gorgeous. Super stand-up dude as well. Incredibly gentlemanly. His army is gorgeous. The dude is wearing a Vanguard Tactics jersey. I want to put this out there right now. If you wear a jersey to a 40K event, you are sending a certain kind of message. And that message is, I'm going to fuck you up. In my opinion. That's what I think when I see that. And when I see a Sisters player wearing a Vanguard Tactics jersey, I'm like, what the hell is... Oh, this is going to be bad. This is going to be awful. The dude is a fan of their stuff, and he's a hobbyist. He's there for paint points. Absolute legend of a person, but like... I walked up, and he was like, hey, how's it going? I'm just here for paint. Let's have a fun game. And I was like, oh, okay, let me turn down the intensity a little bit. Because dude was awesome. But be careful wearing a jersey. That you might send them the wrong message. Obviously, support your people or whatever. But anyway, so this was the game. Unfortunately, we don't actually get through the whole game here. We spent a little too much time shooting the shit, and this army has a few too many moving pieces. But we were both very amicable in agreement about how this ended up working out, and I play on a clock for the remainder of the tournament because of that. Yeah, I went first. This is the end of turn 1.
Oh my god, sir! Relax.
Yeah, so.
What's wrong with you? You're like up in his grill immediately.
So this dude is like, well, first round I barely won, but I was playing way too cagey. So let's not do that again. And again, we're playing Death and Zeal. So he parks both squads of Repentia on the line. And I'm like, oh, that's a decision. And then a bunch of battle, like, his whole army is like right out there. I'm like, all right, let's do it, brother. And I go first, and I pregame 9, and I move 14, and then I shoot, and then I charge. And the Steelers pregame 8, and then move 8, and then advance, and then charge. His Repentia proceed to roll invulns like they are touched by Saint Celestine herself. Like she's right there. Of course she's watching. They are putting on a show. I do like 23 wounds from my heavy flamers into the Repentia, and I'm like, they're gone. And he's like, what if I made 11 6-up invulns? And I'm like, excuse me, what? And he's like, and then what if I made, I don't know, maybe 10 or 11 5-up feel no pain, so you kill 5. I was like, what? Make it make sense, brother. I don't understand. So that definitely kept him in the game for a little bit longer. But yeah, we run in, we kill some stuff, we do a bunch of damage, and we move block him all over the place. Something that I start learning really quickly is that top left rhino there. Bikes are silly. They can fall back, shoot, and charge at no penalty. And what that means is they're very resilient to guns if you have a rhino nearby. Because what they'll do is they'll run up, they'll shoot some stuff, they'll charge the rhino, they'll wrap the rhino. You won't be able to shoot them, and then I'll try to deal with your melee. And then on my turn, they'll fall back, they'll shoot, they'll charge the rhino again. And we can do this forever. Something else that I haven't mentioned yet about why this army is so silly is how stupid the Acolyte Icon Ward is. She's an HQ. She's the gal with the banner. Every GSC player you know has 11 of them because they put her in every box. And she used to be terrible, but now she's amazing. She has a 6-inch aura of, in the command phase, you may summon the Colt, which means get D3 models back to every single unit. Or if they're neophytes, it's D6. And they're at full wounds, and it doesn't matter what they are for core. So I get D3 bikes back per squad per turn, basically. She's chilling in this little L in the bottom left there, and the bikes are trailing back to her. So, yeah, those bikes don't die. And we just sort of rinse and repeat this over and over again. We drop in our dudes, we knock his primary down pretty hard, and we just shoot the bejeepers out of this guy. It does a lot of damage. And again, like as you can see, going first applies an insane amount of pressure with this list. If those Repentia hadn't bossed it like absolute legends, this game would have gone really down really quickly. He was able to keep it pretty competitive. Unfortunately, his secondaries aren't fantastic as much as Sisters usually are because he's going to have such a hard time getting onto those midfield objectives. Defend the Shrine is very easy, so he'll get his points there, he'll get his no prisoners, but Sacred Ground is going to really struggle past the 6 points that he had. Because he has to be holding the objective in order to do the action.
Curious, which shrine did he take? Did he take the middle, or did he take that bottom objective?
That bottom right objective.
Okay.
Yeah. And he had a pretty doable time taking that back every turn until my OBSEC got there. But yeah, overall, good stuff. We end in turn 3, 63 to 54. My primary is through the roof, and my secondaries are good enough that he's not going to be able to come back from that. But he is showing some pretty good recovery in terms of unit-wise, and he's putting out the hurts. This was a fun game. We had a really good time, and again, cannot give this man enough credit for his glorious mustache. You can see it a mile away.
Yeah,
Very
dude.
handsome gentleman.
Tanner and I saw him in the parking lot before the event. He gave off some powerful energy.
It's impressive. So yeah, major props to him to that. I may have won the Warhammer battle, but I lost where it really counts.
You lost the mustache war, dude.
Yeah. All right, moving on over to next round 2. He's playing at Emperor's Chosen Custodes. We've got the Shield Captain on bike with all the nonsense. He's got a Hurricane Bolter. That's interesting. You don't see that very often. We got Valerian. This is the Forge World, like, Trajan looking thing.
He's
she
the
does some cool
Black
stuff.
Library guy.
Yeah. He's got some cool little rules and gimmicks on him. Got a squad of guard with shields. We've got 2 squads of guard with spears. That's minimum 3-mans. 3x3 Sagittarium. This dude loves his... Is this Jacob?
This is Jacob.
Hell yeah, I love this guy. This is our boy Jacob. He's from Portland. He kicked my butt a couple weeks ago. We had a great game. Looking forward to hearing about this. 3x3 Sag, so the dude loves infantry. A single Alaris Terminator, 3x3 bikes, and that's all she wrote. Tell us about what you do into the Custodes Foot Horde?
Yeah, so I haven't played against Custodes with Votann yet. Obviously, they're a very elite army, so I'm like, okay, Judgment tokens are going to go a long way. They also are an army that relies on their 2-up armor for Invuln. But because of how like ludicrously the AP is scaled in the game, most of the time Custodes are just taking 4-up Invulns. Like if you can ignore cover, which everything in my army does except for the troops, you're putting them on their 4-up Invuln. Everything in my army is like min AP2. Even like if you're out of cover and you have a Judgment token, my troops within 14 inches of you are AP2 because that's how Ymir interacts with Judgment, half range AP1. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to have a problem killing things when they expose themselves. I'm just more like, I don't know how hard the Custodes Alpha hits me yet because I haven't been hit by it. And he does have the redeploy. So what I'm really terrified of is, right, like 3 bike squads on the line. Oh, I go first, redeploy Sagittarium to the line, Rendax, bitch, 6s to hit, auto wound, blasting towards like a land train and killing it. I did not take a picture of this board, sadly. I asked Jacob where he was from, you know, kind of just casually as you do. And he said Portland. And I grew very excited. I'm like, oh my God, you're from Portland. And then we just started talking a bunch. And then I'm like, oh my God, we need to start playing. But so that was great. He did win the defender roll off. So he was able to slam an L down in the center. This was one of those thick bird L's though, where you're not actually able to hold it from the other side. So he does have to sacrifice units to come. I deploy fairly defensively because I'm like, I don't want to get redeploy Rendex. I don't know. I think that should, like, that sounds scary to me, right? Like 9 missiles and a bunch of heavy bolters and conversion beamers coming at me. Or whatever the 3 damage gun that the Sagittarium have is. So he goes first. He doesn't actually redeploy aggressively. I don't know if that was something he just didn't think of. I also think it was just because my stuff was pretty like defended. Secondary wise, he went for stand vigil, grind them down. So he was very much like, I'm going to stand here and not die. And he also took Auric Mortalis, marking one of the land trains, which means he needs to go kill one of them in combat. I took Warp Ritual because he has no Psychic Deny, he has no Sisters, he has no, like, he doesn't have Impregnable Mind. So I'm like, I feel pretty safe that I can, like, take over the middle, like, in the first 2 turns and then just chill out here at the Grimnir for the rest of the game. I took Banners because, again, it's a very comfortable, like, it is a corner, so it's probably not like a comfortable 10, but I figured I would take the middle at some point and push it to a 10. And then I took Ancestors Are Watching because, you know, kill stuff with judgment. Let's go. Yeah, he kind of like plays the flanks with his bikes, but then slams down like shield, spear, Sagittarian Valyrian in the middle, pass to you. And I'm like, okay, that's a lot of stuff right there. So I'm like, all right, let's try this. Give a judgment to one of those things for being on the objective. Bikes fly over, Searchlight, give a judgment to that. Wagons go this way, line up beams crossing through like all the stuff in the middle. And I'm like, also here's some Zerks, and they're gonna go run in there and like with some Hearthkin to hopefully flip this objective. And the beams go crazy. The Hearthkin come in with the Zerks, and I kill like everything on the objective except for Valyrian and like a single spear guard.
Lit, dude.
Yeah.
Killed 5 squads of Custodes infantry in a shooting phase.
And like punch phase. The Berserks like finished off a Sagittarium and like a shield guy. Yeah.
Damn.
But yeah, beams. The thing is each land train basically got to shoot 2 squads at once because of beams. So yeah, Valyrian walks in and just fucking solos the Berserks because he ignores wound caps and feel no pains. But they do fight on death and slam him for 6. He does have a cool thing where once per battle round, he's able to reroll a failed like hit, wound, or save. So he does reroll save and keep himself alive. But then Jacob responds by like, all right, it's go time. And so he sends in his bikes. His bikes hit me in the middle, bounce me back off the middle, basically. However, there is like the remnant of the Hearthkin squad because he prioritized like, the Zerks and prioritized trying to like hit like a land train. The remnants of the Hearthkin squad were able to walk up to Valyrian and punch him with like 6 attacks or 8 attacks. He rolls a 1 to save. He's already used his save to try to survive a Zerk. Dude just goes down to a Hearthkin kicking him in the shin. As you can see here, he puts me on a 4. He does hit me pretty hard, like on his clapback turn 2. But at that point, it's like, all right, other land trains able to unload its passengers. And we just like clear up all the bikes that are near me. And all he's got left is like his little hidey hole over here, which I then proceed to clear out turn 3. That Alaris Terminator in the back, I'm never getting to that guy. That guy's like behind, 3 layers of terrain. And yeah, after that, we kind of just like tallied up the points. He did exactly kind of like, what I said could happen into this army, where you look at it and it kind of gives you 2 choices, which is like play a slow grindy game, trying to tag and slow it down, or play the here's my entire army, I'm going to hit you really hard right now and slam you. And then if you bounce, you lose. And he did bounce. So for me, I was like, this is good to learn. The Custodes going all in. Bounce. They don't do enough. And that was hopefully something I would use going forward because there's a lot of Custodes at this tournament. But yeah, ends with a 94-42 victory for the Leagues of Votann. But a great game to Jacob. And I've already hit him up to play some more practice games. So I'm very excited to have him over. play some games with.
Held this dude to 0 points of secondary.
Yeah, so Stand Vigil and Grind are scored at the end of the battle round, and since he went first, it was very easy for me to just knock him off and also like tie up / kill more than him. It would have obviously been better. Like Stand Vigil, he would have gotten like a 9 on it if he went second. So that secondary, since it's scored at end of battle round, it's basically Stranglehold at end of battle round, which is very swingy. And then Orc Mortalis, he never killed a tank, so he didn't get his points.
Alrighty. Moving on to round 3, and we are playing Tide of Conviction, known far and wide for being a Dawn of War mission that doesn't suck. You'll love to see it. All right. Up first. Oh, God, Lucas. Oh, God. I'm not going to spoil anything. Lucas is playing into Freeblade Lance, Imperial Knights.
It's time.
Okay, time for a night joust. Lucas has got at Imperial Knights, he's doing the Freeblade thing. For those of you who haven't seen the Freeblade thing before, it does a couple of wonky shenanigans. In particular, what does it do, Lucas? I don't even know.
Yeah, basically each unit can take its own nightly household benefit. So each unit has its own chapter tactic, basically. And he's gone for the extra CP Oath and then protect those in need. I think that's something melee related. I think it's like gives you heroics and then fight first when it's exalted or whatever. Something like that. Or when you're honored. Chivalrous, whatever the hell. Yeah, so dude has 3 autocannon guys, 3 dudes with sword and melta, 1 Moirax with the lightning locks. We got a paladin, and we got a preceptor. So the same 2 knights that Nick played against, but this time Freeblade Lance style. So a couple of notable things: the Warglaives are strike and shields; they can only be hit on 4s in melee, and the paladin has the herald, so he can like give out multiple bondsman buffs, and one of them is a 4-up invuln. So the classic combo there is the Warglaives that kind of charge out to screen you and bog you down and flip your objectives because they're OPSEC. They can only be hit on 4s in melee, and they'll have a 4-up invuln and -1 damage because they're bondsman did. So these guys are actually really, really hard to kill. Yeah, pretty interesting list. This is my first time I've ever played against Freeblade Lance, and I really had no idea what it was going to do. So yeah, I end up going first. This is the table at the end of my turn 1 movement phase, or we're partway into shooting now. This was probably one of the times my dice have spiked and my opponents have gone cold simultaneously. The most egregious examples in like at least 3 or 4 years. So I opened my shooting phase by pointing at his, he has got a preceptor who has like a bodyguard ability for his other big knight, so you have to shoot her first. I spend 2 CPs, so that 6 explode against her with war dogs. I shoot my 3 Melta Knights on the right-hand side of the table, the orange and gray ones. 6 shots, hitting on 3s, rolling 1s. Or, I mean, one of them wasn't rolling 1s, but 6 shots, 10 hits. Rolled 4 6s, so 4 extra hits. And then wounding on 3s, 9 wounds. 8 failed 4-up invulns. Those 3 knights immediately aced his bodyguard knight, top of 1. I then went on to shoot the rest of my army in, killing the War Dog Moirax that Jason's adjusting the wounds on right now, and putting the Paladin down to like 15. So,
Jesus.
Yeah, this game, unfortunately, I mean, I kind of had the idea that it was going to be a go-first game when, I mean, it's knights on knights. You can't really hide from each other, especially on like a terrain set like this. You're going to be getting shot. So whoever really takes the first shot has a huge advantage. But I basically won the game instantly when my first 2 knights decided to pop off that hard. Yeah, as we can see from the scorecard, Jason got 0 primary. I was living on his side of the table, and he got a couple points on Bring It Down and Yield No Ground, but it was definitely not close, and that they basically just rode on first.
That dude cannot move backwards because there is nowhere backwards to move to, so have some points.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm surprised to not see the honor one. That secondary is stupid from my experience.
Yeah, he probably should have taken that instead of Renew. You really don't have the activations to be, actioning with knights in a brawl matchup like Knights on Knights.
Did you just take Storm?
Oh no, that conflicts. The honor one conflicts with Bring It Down. That's why.
Yeah, I think that's a totally reasonable take.
Yep.
For some reason, I thought it was No Mercy.
But yeah, it was definitely brutal. It was funny to watch Abaddon charge into one of the armigers with it fully buffed, so 4 Bindle only hit on 4s and -1 damage, and straight up failed to kill it. Abaddon just bounced off the dog, and I was like, wow, these guys are tanky as hell.
Are they no rerolls?
No. So hitting on 4s, rerolling.
4s full rerolls. 4s full rerolls?
3s full rerolls. And he has a 4-up invuln, and he takes
4-up
2 damage
invuln?
hit.
Okay. Sure.
What's notable, I believe they can 1 CP transhuman a Baby Knight too, right?
They can.
So that's a cool little combo there. Like, can't be hit on, like, can only hit on 4s, gets 4-up saves, can only be wounded on 4s. Obsec 5.
Yep.
It's a casino if I've ever seen one.
That's the
My
spice.
gosh.
Yep. Yeah, they're tanky little dudes.
All right.
Alrighty.
Well, a nightly joust won from some hot rolls.
Yeah, this was against the wonderful Jason Lawrence, I believe his last name is. This is the guy, we only play mirror matchups, this is the thing. I played against him at, what's the one in April? Is that Tau Tipping?
Yep.
And I was playing Goffs, and he was playing Blood Axe Speedwa. So we played an Orc's Mirror there, and then here we played a Knight's Mirror.
Hilarious.
Yeah, I've enjoyed both of those games.
I love that both of those, though, are like not a mirror. They're like the same faction functionally, but they're very different armies.
Yes,
It's very cool.
Certainly, yep.
Alrighty. Cool. Moving on over to my round 3 over here. I'm playing our boy Scooter and his guard. Battlescribe occasionally just says, fuck you, BCP. We're not doing this today. And man, do I hate when that happens. His list is entirely illegible, and there's not a lot he can do about it. He's got 2 tank commanders, 4 Lehman Russ, 4 Chimera, 50 dudes on foot, a command squad, and 4 Ogren. Maybe there's some other stuff. I don't know.
It is
what I'm about to
impossible to read.
Yeah, it's just it's so bad. What I'm about to show you. Well, here we are. So I went first, and yeah.
Avert your eyes, children.
This is definitely not safe for work.
Yeah.
So Scooter is on the more casual side. Makes it very important to him to play what he considers friendly versions of competitive lists. Right? This is the guy I played who was playing Behemoth at what event was that? Pecking Order?
Turkey Wars.
Turkey Wars, there we go. Over at Turkey Wars, where he had the Carnifexes and the double flyer and stuff, trying different things. So this guard list is definitely not super duper optimized, but more than that, this deployment ends up being really bad for him. He parked his command squad on his backfield objective and made it very clear that I would not be able to charge them without also charging the Ogren. Unfortunately, I can still charge them and just also charge the Ogren. So turn 1, the Gene Stealers pop out of their blip. I went first again. Pop out of their blip, move 8, pregame move 8, auto advance 6, charge, and eat that command squad for breakfast. So he's going to have a hell of a time scoring Inflexible Command. And then meanwhile, the bikes do bike things. On both flanks there, pregame 9, move 14, charge on in. One of them charges the Chimera, which doesn't have any meaningful Overwatch. The other one turns off the Overwatch of the Lehman Russ. And we wrap up all the tanks. The tanks are in kind of an interesting spot where, like, they have a lot of mechanics that should make them not so taggable, but in practice, in my experience, none of them work. The turrets can shoot out of combat while the tank is in combat. That's really cool, as long as there's a legal target for it to shoot at, because it can't shoot into combat because it's blast, and the way I'm positioned here, those turrets just aren't shooting anybody. The Sponsons can shoot into combat, which is nice, but couple problems. Number one, if you don't take the Flamers, they don't do that much, especially into the Jackals that are already -1 to hit. So you're hitting on 5s with not Flamers, or he took Plasma Cannons on some of these, which don't get to shoot in combat at all. And whatever you shoot at, as you kill dudes, I'll pull out of combat with those Russes, who, again, from their current positioning, don't have any legal targets. So you're really just not able to do that much damage in return. So now we get to play the fallback, shoot, charge that game over and over again. Bikes fall back, Neophytes come in, they shoot some dudes, The bikes charge back in, they re-tag everything, and we rinse and repeat this 2 or 3 times. The bike squad on the one of the bikes, I think the bike squad on the left eventually got worn down through a bunch of shooting, with what little shooting you could do into combat. So the bike squad on the right ran over and took its place, and the bike squad on the back ran up and took the bike squad on the right's place. And we just sort of cycle through this over and over again. The scoreboard is really, really lopsided, unfortunately. The killing the command squad made him flexible really hard, and then the tank commanders were obviously the first priority. So once those went down on turn 3, he was done scoring flexible command. Boots on the ground worked fine until I killed all his infantry, and he managed to get an 8 on R&D because I didn't really have any reason to stop him while I was running up my scoreboard.
You can't score boots turn 1.
Oh, you can't? Oh,
that's just in the thing. Yep. No, that's good.
Didn't know that.
It's all good.
Yeah. So this was unfortunately not an ideal situation for him. Yeah. So guard do bleed. That was my lesson from this game. This is definitely not an example of, an optimal guard list against a very high caliber player necessarily, but as a faction, it's not an auto loss. It's not Lukas versus Tau where, Timmy, 12-year-old Timmy can stumble in drunk. Don't get your 12-year-olds drunk, but and still beat Lukas as long as he's playing Tau. Yep. This matchup is not that bad for me, not nearly.
So how are you feeling? Oh, sorry. Go on.
Especially because he doesn't even have a commissar, so the 12-inch no deep strike aura was just never even an option.
Yeah. How are you feeling about guard now? Like we know Peter, we know Hank. They're both out there undefeated. I think. I mean, you're what 3-0 after this.
I'm 3-0 at the end of this. Yeah. So Peter and Hank are still on the prowl. Hank's got all the Russes. Peter has a balanced list. That's what I'm terrified of. Yep. The Russes, I feel like I have a game into if I go first. I can do these kind of shenanigans. There's nonsense to abound. He's not born heroes, so he actually loses a lot of damage from not doing that, just to be OBSEC 5. And generally, OBSEC 5 is not the end of the world for me, because I have so many dudes that can deep strike at 3 with OBSEC. So Peter's really scary still. He's on the prowl. I don't feel great about that. But Hank should be interesting. It's kind of coin flippy. But in general, I'm a lot less scared of this matchup than I was initially. Obviously, it can be a lot worse, but seeing some of these things in practice, especially in this, gave me a really good warm-up to practice some of these skills of blocking off lines of sight, tagging things in the right way, move blocking. I mean, as you can see on the scoreboard, he didn't score primary this game either. So
yeah, hold 2, hold 3 mission. You get locked in your DZ.
Yeah,
pretty
absolutely.
hard to score points.
No, it's not ideal. All right.
Well done.
Moving on. This is just a Knights tournament over here, buddy.
More Herbitrax.
Lucas, you want to walk us through Nick's round 3 opponent of more House Herbitrax?
Yeah. We got another guy playing House Herbitrax. Is this Alex?
This is Alex, dude.
Yeah, he's a legend. Love that guy. House Herbitrax Chaos Knights. He's got 2 big knights because he's a champion of the people. Let's go. He's got a Desecrator with the Bow to None, so no modifiers. The Diamonos. So this is the Relic Lance with +2 strength and +1 shot. And Mark of the Dread Knight. So he has a 6-up. Feel no pain. We got a Rampager with Diabolus, the Teeth that Hunger, and Blessing of the Dark Master. Pretty aggressive Rampager. We got 3 Brigands with the Mirror of Fates. We got 2 Carnivores with the Blood Shield, a Stalker with Aura of Corruption, and then another Stalker with Pyro Throne. And he took one of the weird Mortal Wounds spells that I don't really know how it works. But yeah, starting with 2 CP. I don't see the dog hat anywhere. Did he opt out of taking that?
I didn't see it anywhere.
Okay. Kind of makes sense. If he's only going for 7 dogs, might not be worth it. But still a really good relic that he has decided not to take. How'd this game go?
Yeah, so I mean, we've played Chaos Knights into Votann 3 times now. At least once we played it a few times, pre-nerf, post-nerf, so we know how it goes. I feel very confident into this. I think Lucas's list is a lot scarier because it has more dogs. One of the things I'm most scared about on this mission, since it's a hold 2, hold 3, is this army going first, pressuring me, putting me in my DZ, keeping me on a 0 for a few turns because it's just OBSEC 5 guys that can punch me out in melee. I think he wins the defender roll-off. Roll-off does not matter as much on this mission because you can't really cross in your opponent's side of the board. What you can do is put terrain to prevent them staging so close to them. but I wasn't really planning on staging close. I was planning on basically putting like layers of stuff to slow his army down, like layers of terrain, while also having like a nice L I can touch while being in a forest. I wanted to repeat what I did into Noah, which was tanks and forest, come out, touch, shoot, you shoot me back, you're hitting on fours. He went first. I did have one tank that was deployed very defensively with 5 Zerks, and I had one tank deployed very aggressively with 10 Zerks, but that one was deployed in the force. And I like got to basically counter deploy him because he has, less units than me. And I saw that, like, okay, based off where he can move, if I put this tank here, the only thing shooting at turn 1 is like 3 Meltas. The 3 Meltas shoot it. They do not kill it. And then I go, all right, poke out here, beam through the big one into like a little one. Over here, he does try to pressure my like right objective. I did take banners. This is another one that I'm like, if I can hold down like my home central base, it's an easy 10. I took bring it down on ancestors because just go kill knights, score somewhere between 15 to 30 points. Nice. He decided to pressure my far objective, which I think was a good call because my army is relatively slower once you like take out the bikes, once you are out of the transports. So if he's like hitting me on this far right flank, it's really hard for me to countercharge that, and I have to go devote a whole land train over to shoot that like flank. So I'm shooting the flank and move blocking the flank that has a lot of like the big knights, and then like the baby knights that are pressuring my right flank. I send over like a squad of Zerks and a land train to deal with that. I do end up with dealing with that pretty easily. The Zerks get like a nice like 6-inch charge off, and now they're moving up into his side of the board. And over here on his side, I like go crazy. I kill like 3 dogs. So end of turn 1, he's got the big knight, the shooting one, the Diamonus one, the Desecrator on like 4 wounds. He's got the Desecrator on 25 because like a knight exploded back there. And then he's got 2 little knights. And then on like his right flank, he has like 1 little knight in the back. And so he's like, all right, dude, I don't think I'm winning this game. I think I messed up deployment in my turn 1. I'm just going to go for a 10-inch charge with the Rampager into those Hearthkin and flip that objective. And I'm like, let's go, dude. Dude just comes in, slams the 10, just carves through the Hearthkin because he's got like 40 attacks or something. Flips the objective. Very cool. All right. Banner's gone. Objective's gone. What is it? I'm still holding 3, though, because he's not able to shoot my Zerks that charged his objective. Again, this is a thing that Lucas and I figured out. Zerks are extremely resistant to Chaos Knight damage. A single minigun kills like 1.5. If you're lucky. Kills like 1. So he shoots 1 knight into it. And he's like, oh, I killed 1. Shit. That's dumb. And I'm like, yeah. So this is when my basically trap comes to spring. The 10 Zerks get out. There is a baby knight with 3 judgment. There is a big knight with 3 judgment who has achieved his vow. So he is trans-hitman, no rerolls. And I send in a squad of 5 here, a squad of 5 here. The land train that he tagged shoots into combat with the guy, gets him down to 16 wounds from 25. And then 5 Zerks charge, get 9 hits, which auto wound. He makes 1 save, takes 24 damage. And at that point, game's over. It was good on him recognizing that he's like, I did not do enough pressure turn 1. I gotta like go for it. But again, this is a extremely Votann favorite matchup. I mean, Lucas and I need to like figure out if there is any way for Chaos Knights to try to like beat this, but I just think with everything being able to punch up with judgment tokens, it's just too good for them.
Yeah, hits auto wound is already brutal for Knights, and then even just if we think about the points scored in this game, like Chaos Knights are usually reliant on at least 1 or 2 kill secondaries. Like we can see here, he took Assassination and No Prisoners. I think that's what I would take into Votann too, and I certainly would not be happy about it. Meanwhile, you get a 330 on Ancestors Are Watching and Bring It Down, which just feels stupid. So I think this matchup is doomed.
Yeah. It did end in a 99-30 for the Votann. So yeah. But Alex, I played him at Harbor Heresy. Great playing it again.
Does Nick sound weird to other people?
Yeah, Nick, I think you might have unplugged your mic, bud.
I'll try to fix that.
Oh,
was that just now?
Better.
Yep, you sound so much better.
All right. I didn't do anything. Very strange.
Classic.
Cool.
Yeah, so end of day one, Nick and I are 3-0. Lucas bringing up the rear at 2-1. Feeling pretty good. There are 10 undefeateds, I think, at the end of day one. What are you worried about of those 10? I think I have the list over here.
I'm worried about Hank.
Yeah, it's
I'm worried
Hank,
about the 11 Russes.
Michael, Naj, Mitchell, myself, Ryan, Timothy. Oh no, wait, this is after round 4.
I'm worried about the 11 Russes. I'm worried about
Tremble
you.
is still out there.
Yep, I'm worried about
Tanner's
you
still out there
because I feel like your army can just outscore me on secondary and primary depending on the mission. And I'm worried about. I'm actually not actually worried, but there's some list out there that's running a giant 1,000-point plane that auto explodes, and I'm I don't want to have to run through the thinking of playing into that list. So yeah. Oh, and Blood Angels. JT's undefeated. And I'm Blood Angels, and I know the next round's the Scouring, so they can definitely put some pressure on me.
I think this round would be my best chance if I was going to beat you. Would be on the Scouring. That looks.
Data Scry Finals pretty good too.
Oh, because you got to split up then. Yeah. No, we'll see. All right. And Lucas, how are you feeling 2-1 at the end of day one?
I'm fine. I usually, if the loss happens early enough, can often be a bummer, but I can console myself with the idea that there's 3 or 4 more matchups still to come where I can win. And I think again, 5-1 was my goal, so taking 1 early loss is fine. As
Very
unfortunate
cool.
as it is.
I'm feeling pretty damn good, I gotta say, because I think there is only one Demons player left, which is Tanner.
Yep.
And so we've almost entirely dodged Flamers. We'll see what we can do.
You know what I'm feeling happy about, dude? No Tau in the undefeated.
Yeah, not a single Tau. All of our Tau players lost to Death Guard.
Good counter.
I'm I can't lose a game because I know I'm getting thrown down to Tau and losing another, and I'm going 4-3, dude.
100%. All right, so we're moving on in. We wake up day 2, have ourselves a nice plate of biscuits and gravy for breakfast, and we're running into the Scouring. And first up, we got our boys, the Leviathan Tyranids. This is for Lucas?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right, Lucas, let's see you get some revenge on Levy. Who's playing this, by the way?
This is Sean Bursek. I played him at Turkey Wars
the kid?
in round 5. Yeah. He's not a kid.
Dude.
He's younger than us, but yeah.
If you're younger than us, you're a kid. That's we're kids.
Fair. Okay, yeah.
But this is the next generation, and he's the next generation. No, I don't mean that as an insult at all. Oh,
he's barely out of the cradle.
Whatever the case. I know what they're doing about bugs. Let's talk about this Leviathan list. Now, the last time you all played was pre-data slate, right?
Yeah.
So Leviathan has taken some hits since then.
Yeah, he had.
And look at that!
He had 21 warriors in that list, and look how many there are now.
I will also say, this dude was telling me that Sporocysts are utter trash at that event, and the man has made some changes to his list. All right. This list is awesome, by the way. I love this. All right. He's running a squad of Tyrant Guard. He's running a squad of Zoanthropes, a Neurothrope with not Onslaught. Wild decision. He's got a Turvigon. He's got a Reaper Flyrant. That's the guy with Onslaught. All right, brother. He's got a squad of... That's a decision. Yeah. He's got a squad of 10 Gargs. He's got a squad of 30 Termagants for that Turvigon, baby. He's got a Turvigon. I don't know if I said that already. That's awesome. The Levy Turvigon is a beast. He didn't throw anything on her. I think that she really benefits from adaptive biology, and she could also benefit from Maw-Claws. Lucas thinks the Maw-Claws Turvigon is the best thing since sliced bread. We'll see about that. He's got another squad of Gaunts, 25 this time. He's rocking a trio of Venoms, 2 more trios of Zones, the Parasite, 3 Biovores, and ye olde Sporocyst. So this is actually quite similar to the Levy list that I was trying to outdo you recently, but without the Pyropod. That list didn't have a Flyrant in it. It was memeing, so makes sense as a switch out. I like this list a lot. It's trying to do a bunch of different things. The Turvigon jank is awesome. For those of you not familiar, he'll be casting the Leviathan spell Hive Nexus to give the Gaunts the Zoanthrope Imperative for 5-up Invul, and they'll cast Catalyst on them, give them a 5-up Feel No Pain, and they're baby transhuman because they're Levy. So a squad of 30 dudes that can't be wounded on 2s with a 5-up, who then the Turvigon brings back 2d6 a turn, and the Strat can bring back d3 plus 3 a turn. the shenanigans around primary are very real. So tell me all about this game, Lucas. I don't think I heard anything about it yet. What's going on? Oh no! Oh no!
It was wild. Yeah, the game ended before I could get a picture of it.
Yikes!
So I went first, and the thing about this list is it doesn't really have a lot of melee. So I just he had to kind of like put his terrain pretty defensively to hide his zoanthropes because we were playing on the super cracked. It was on one of the Necron tables with some goofy terrain.
Gotcha. Like what
I
I
had to
played
put
on
him
round
super
one?
far back. Zoanthropes were super far out of the way, so I'm like, your Zoanthropes smite 18, they move a maximum of 11. I'm just going to hide 29 inches away, cut all these angles.
They move 12. They're moving 6, but go on.
Okay, either way. Be far enough away that they can't blast me with mortals. Cut a bunch of angles. I picked up 4 Zoans and 2 Tyrant Guard. Over to his turn, he onslaughts the Ganson to tie me up. My following turn, I fall back and kill 50 Gants, and on the turn he sent the Ganson, he also sent the Flyer into the middle to kill a dog, and I -1 damage, and I lived on 1 wound. So that turn I also killed the Flyrant, and at that point he's like, yeah, I've got a wounded Sporicist, 3 Biovores, and 3 Venomthropes left, and the Turvagon. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pack it in, brother. I had my entire army at this point. He had done no damage to me at all.
Jesus.
And I don't blame him. Like, at that point, I was playing with basically 1,900 points against his, 800. The game was essentially over. We just scored the points that he scored, and then I maxed all the stuff that I could. It did not have the most... What's up?
You've been having some success into Tyranids lately.
Yeah, ever since the Leviathan change. Crazy how much a change of just, -1 to wound. Before I was wounding Leviathan warriors on 4s when I should be wounding them on 2s and 3s, and all of a sudden now I'm wounding warriors on 2s and Zoanthropes on 2s and 3s. Just adds up very, very quickly, and those kind of elite bugs are really not the kind of things that like getting shot by chain cannons.
Yeah,
I imagine it helps that we played the match about 1,000 times.
Yeah, I think he was definitely thinking he would endure the shooting a little bit better than he did, and I picked up all 9 Zoanthropes in 2 turns. It was pretty brutal.
Because they only have a 4 pinball, yeah? They have no...
Yeah, I'm just handing him, every single time I shoot a chain cannon, I'm like, here's 9 or 10 saves. You fail 5 of them, there goes half a squad. Bye.
So
very silly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Alrighty. Very cool Nids list. I think this is probably the wrong terrain setup for it. I think it would do a lot better on something with a little bit more L's, a little less... That Necron table is kind of wonk. And Chaos Knights become really strong on kind of wonk tables. But good effort by our boy over here. Nicholas James in the chat says that Mac Daddy was saying to run a Kraken Maw-Claws Turvagon. McDougal is high. Running a Turvagon in anything other than Leviathan or Behemoth, or just anything where you don't have access to either Leviathan or Lurk, is crazy. Your gaunts immediately evaporate. I cannot imagine playing that unironically. Come on, Alex, you're better than that. The Behemoth would be for double cover, just to be clear, because double cover gaunts are weirdly durable, but you really want to be Leviathan, so you can hand out that invuln. Anyway,
Yep.
You can tell him I said that. He's a friend of mine. All right. My round 4. Lovely. It's time for... Yeah.
All right,
so
Lucas talked a lot. I can talk about this list.
Sounds good. So there are 6 guard players here, and I'm going to go play another one of them, and this is Peter.
This is the one you're scared of. This is the bounce guard list. So, guard are a little weird. They don't have sub-factions like Cadian or, Vostroyan or, Talarn anymore. They have a default, double custom, which is called Born Soldiers, which is basically 6s, or it's Hammer of the Emperor, right? 6s to hit auto wound, and also, if you're within 6 inches of a character, you get to use his leadership or something like that instead of your own, which is pretty nice. And you could also, if you would rather, pick 2 from a custom list and build your army around that. But Peter went for the default one because it's very strong. Who knew 6s to hit auto wound were very strong? He has a tank commander with Gatekeeper. That's a relic battle cannon that's flat 3 damage and a bunch of shots. He's got some heavy bolters on that. He has another tank commander with a Vanquisher cannon. So that's the mini railgun. It's got a las cannon sponson and some heavy bolter sponsons. It has a tank ace upgrade, which gives it called Veteran Commander. It has the ability to pick a like doctrine that has not been picked by his army. So he picked Elite Sharpshooter, which gives this thing a reroll a hit, which is very good when you shoot a single gigantic shot. He has Acadian Command Squad. This is a cool squad that hands out orders and does a lot of other things. It's got a commander, like a plasma gun or two thrown in there, a med pack, which means it has a fight, feel no pain. It can bring models back from the squad. A Master Vox, which means it can order units that are within 24 of it instead of 6, which is very cool. It has the Finial of the Nemrdash First. This is the very strong relic that you're probably going to be seeing in every single guard list. It is a 6-inch aura from the command squad that gives all core units ignore all hit modifiers. Not ballistic skill, but ignore all hit. So they'll be ignoring dense cover. They'll be ignoring LFR. They'll be ignoring the heavy penalty, which is important because there's a guard order to turn all of your guns into heavy 3. And it also gives you ignore wound caps and feel no pains for all of those core units, which we'll get to in a second. And then there's an Astropath in that squad. And the Astropath has a Psychic Barrier, which is like a 5-up wound. I think it can be thrown on a tank.
It's there to cast that gain a CP.
Yeah, that guy can do an action or like do a Psychic secondary, you know. Very strong, like 20, 30 point little dude you can throw in. These command squads are very cool. I'm a big fan of these, actually. You can like kind of build like a custom little squad. You can throw like an Ogre Bodyguard in there. You can get real cute with it. But that's Peter's command squad. He's got 3 squads of 10 Cadian shock troops with 2 plasma guns, a Vox caster, a drum-fed autogun. These shock troops, they're kind of doing the thing that a lot of other new books are doing, where all their upgrades are free. So that's why you're seeing a lot of just like special guns on them. And then we have, I'll get to these guys in a second because they're kind of up me to the list. We have a Commissar. He is a cool little character that has access to the Prefectus order table, and he can also order characters, which is very strong. And then 2 squads of 3 Lehman Russes. They deploy in a squadron and then, you know, act as separate models. After deploying, they have the gigantic plasma cannon and then 3 heavy bolter sponsons, and then it's a single squad of 3 mortars. And then the meat of the list, this is the very scary, like the Lehman Russes are scary, to be fair. But the Kazarkins are like the stuff everyone's worried of. There are 2 squads of 10 Kazarkin. They have 2 volley guns, a hotshot marksman rifle, that's like a 3 damage sniper, a Vox caster, which means like they can, you know, get orders from far away, a Meltamine, which lets them access like a strat that does mortals when you charge them. And then each one of the Kazarkins have a separate tactic that they get in addition to the 6s to hit auto wound, because that is just a special Kazarkin thing. One of them has brutal strength, which I believe just lets them ignore the heavy penalty, and also like they get +1 strength in melee. And the other squad has veteran guerrillas, which I actually don't remember what that does. Do you remember, Tyler?
Ignores cover.
Ignores cover. Very strong. The squad that ignores the heavy penalty has a relic called Barbican's Key, which is a sword that can slice through reality. So it just becomes the Veil of Darkness. Once per game, they can teleport in the guard player's movement phase. Would you like me to explain the Kazarkin combo, guys?
Please.
All right. So the Kazarkin combo, this is the stuff to watch out for, and will hopefully be FAQ'd in some way because it drastically needs to. So, all right, there is a stratagem. I don't remember what it's called. It's like overcharged cells or something weird. It's a stratagem that for 1 CP, a squad of Kazarkin, every 6 to wound deals a mortal to a cap of 6 per squad they shoot. So say if they split their fire into 3 squads, and they roll 6 sixes to wound into each of those 3 squads, this squad can dish out 18 mortals in 1 shooting phase. And you might be like, okay, well, that's kind of hard to get. You know, like this list wasn't allowing Ponyboy, right? They don't have full hit, like reroll the wound. What's very strong is the Born Soldier's 6s to hit auto wound. If it wounds on a 6, it counts as if it hits on a 6, it counts as a 6 to wound, triggering the mortal. And the second part of this combo is there's a 1 CP stratagem to make 5s and 6s to hit auto wound, and both the 5s and 6s to hit auto wound count as 6s to wound, triggering the mortals. Which you might be like, all right, well, that's annoying. Well, when they're nearby the filial, they're going to be ignoring the heavy penalty for becoming 3 shots apiece, and they're also going to be ignoring your feel no pains and wound caps. So if you were playing Catan, they are out of the game. And that is the thing to watch out for with Kazarkin. So yeah, big spooky.
They're lame. They come in and they shoot you to hell with 1,000,000 mortals and can't do anything about it. It's sad.
That unit is 100 points.
Yes, because all the war gear is free.
Awesome.
Go home, GW. You're drunk. But okay. So this is the thing I was worried about, right? He's got the Commissar, so he's got good access to the no deep strike within 12 aura. That's a problem. He's got a pile of Russes that are going to do a lot of damage that I'm very concerned about. He's got infantry to stand in places, to score points, to block stuff off. It's a lot of nonsense. And then, of course, he's got the Kazarkin. To my benefit, Peter has never played in a GSC. I mean, for the record, most people haven't. And also to my benefit, Peter has been out of the game for a little while. That being said, I'm not 100% sure what the correct way to deploy against this army is. I just know it's not what ends up happening on the next screen. So this is the end of turn 1. Peter deploys all 30 of his infantry basically in a line across the front of his deployment zone. His thought being, I really don't want Tyler to drive his bikes up and charge my tanks and do what he do to me what he did to Scooter. Totally good call. You don't want that at all. Unfortunately, parking 30 dudes in a single line doesn't stop that, like, at all. I rush up with both squads of bikes, and I go first, again. 4 for 4, baby. I rush up with both squads of bikes and the squad of Gene Stealers. The Gene Stealers charge the middle squad. The bikes shoot the squads on the side, and then also charge the middle squad, or also charge both squads. I think that tank on the bottom there was able to support the squad that was kind of on my right, his left flank. So between them and the bikes, we killed that squad off. And then, we charge in, get a bunch of movement off the charge, and then the Gene Stealers fight first. The Gene Stealers obliterate the squad, and then return to the shadows, so they're not even able to be targeted at this point. They're off the table, because you can do that after arriving from ambush. Can't do it after arriving from deep strike. And then the bikes pile Console 6, and it ends up with 3 of his Russes are tagged, and 29 of his 30 dudes are dead. There's one more dude in combat with the bikes, as well as the Russes in the top there. And this is an awkward spot for him, because the way he has set up his terrain, Peter, Guard in general, are in a really awkward spot when it comes to terrain, in my experience. Because they have a bunch of dudes. They have these infantry and these Kazarkins that they really want to be able to hide, and they want to hold objectives, and they're not playing OBSEC 5 Russes like Hank is usually, so they need to hide. But then they're playing a bunch of 4.5-inch wide tanks that really bump into each other in awkward ways. So right from this current position, there's not a whole lot that he can do. He can swing those Russes in the bottom right there around to catch a bead on my truck and kill that one rock grinder. And that's about it. He can't shoot into, the Russes. He's going to have to fall back with all the Russes if he wants to shoot at the bikes. So he'll get to shoot at the bikes, but, he's basically not scoring primary is the problem. He ends up scoring a 4 turn 2. That one dude who survived falls back. I did try to cut him down, by the way, because I thought that would be hilarious. He was engaged with 2 dudes, and I was like, if I roll a 6 on one of these 2 dice, you're just screwed, bro. And he's like, oh, snap, that'd be a problem. And then I don't. And then he walks him into the open instead of staying behind the wall for no reason that I could really understand. But I repaid the favor by forgetting to shoot at him, because I just assumed he was dead. Lucas is mute. He's laughing hysterically. Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, you're such a fool. This was such a mistake. My gosh, how could you do this? How could anyone do something so ridiculous? Proceeds to do something even more ridiculous and stupid. So, classic myself, shooting myself in the foot. But here's where things get interesting. On his turn, he yeets out the Kazarkin and also the mortars, and throws up the 12-inch no deep strike ore. And the Kazarkin just obliterate that left-hand squad of bikes. He's able to kill some of the right-hand squad of bikes, but just not enough. Because the Kazarkin advance, because he's way more concerned about blocking out deep strikes than he is about killing bikes. And those tanks want to shoot the tank, and also line of sight becomes real awkward and confusing. And again, several of them are tagged. So I end up being not able to regrow. I just end up holding on to that objective on his bottom right on my turn 2, and that's why I'm getting a 12. Peter, by the way, I'm way deep in this game, but Peter got Defender through a forest in the middle. I don't think that was actually the right call. That forest in the middle is annoying, but it's also really good for me. Because it means that if he went first, I can pregame my bikes into it, and then my bikes are -2 to hit. And the turrets are +1 to hit, which is cool. It makes them hit on 3s, but bikes are always -1, -2 for the forest, and suddenly he's hitting me on 5s? It's gross. So that's maybe not the right play there. But whatever the case, because of that, the other thing you'll notice here is that I'm able to get my ruins further forward. I slam that bottom right ruin up far up, and then the top up left ruin is not quite as hard to position. He doesn't even try to block it. So his ruins are all a little bit further back than mine, which questionable whether that was the right call or not. I really don't know. But anyway, so he's able to shoot off the bikes, but then now that I've done that, I basically don't. I've hindered his ability to play the game enough that I no longer need to do anything crazy. On turn 2, those Gene Stealers drop back down on that top left objective there, and they do a strategic scan. What's he going to do about it? Fire mortars at them? Boom, cloud of flies, no mortars allowed. And he's like, oh, snap. That's a stratagem that GSC has. We have cloud of flies. So the mortars aren't able to shoot at them, so they're just chilling. And then on my turn 2, on my turn 3, they blitz up the table, and they auto-advance 6, and they charge easily box to box, and they wipe off that ruin there, and that holds him to a 4 again. So turn 2, he gets a 4 because I'm an idiot and forgot to shoot the 1 guardsman. Turn 3, he gets a 4 because I wipe him off the objective with the Stealers, and I've gotten 12s both turns. Now, the 12 turn 2 is very understandable. He's not going to be able to kill that whole squad of bikes while killing the other. Like, he can't kill both squads of bikes from his current position. It's just not happening. So that's going to happen. But the turn 3 one is a little more clever because when I drop in, instead of dropping right in his face to do a bunch of damage, he's screaming out 12. I can't do that, so I drop all the way back instead. My bikes zone out his Kasserkin. That third squad ends up spreading out all over my deployment zone, so he's not getting in there. And then I drop in my squads of 20 dudes, such that I've got the 4 dudes with seismics poking out around the corner on that bottom right objective. And then I've also got another one that drops in the middle. I put the 4 dudes that have the seismics out. 2 of them on the objective, 1 back, and then the next dude is on my side of the ruin, right? So only those 4 dudes are exposed, everyone else is hidden. When he goes to shoot me, he shoots. He kills like 8 guardsmen, 8 brood brothers, 8 neophytes, which are the 4 of those cannons, and then just 4 random dudes from behind the wall. I don't care about morale, whatever. I've got 12 dudes left, 1 surviving, and then on my turn, the Icon Ward heals D6 of those dudes, which then string back out onto the objective. So that's a 12. And then on turn 4, I do it again, because he kills some dudes, and I string back out. And I'm move blocking him here with the bikes, and then later with Gene Stealers as well when they come back out. So he's just not able to get onto that center objective, so there's nothing preventing me from just holding it like that. So that's a big problem for him. And then finally, after I get that 12 on turn 4, now the gates are down, right? Like he's getting an 8. I'm not holding him from anything. He gets to drive forward full speed, but it's bottom of 4. So like he gets a 12 on turn 5. He ends up getting a 10 on assassinate when he runs up and touches walls and is able to finally shoot stuff. I basically get tabled. He took a flexible command. He can't take no prisoners. Either one's a 15. The big thing that killed Peter this game is he took engage on all fronts. This is a really, really bad secondary, particularly in this matchup, particularly with me going first. He gets a 3 on it, and that 3 is on turn 5 when he finally gets to take the table. Brood Swarm is an easy 15 for me. I take banners, get a 10, just my own 2 banners. I was wondering if there was a way at some point that I'd be able to raise a banner on that midfield objective. There ended up not being. If there's a Clamavis, there will be, so stay tuned for that later. Something funny that we learned during this game is that if you raise a banner on the top of turn 5, that banner can't be pulled down on the bottom of turn 5, which is hilarious because it only comes down at the start of a command phase. So as long as you're holding the objective at the end of your turn, which you better have been if you're putting up a banner on it, it's just endgame points, which is like very weird to think about. Like, we talk about raise banners on their corpses as like a joke, but like you can raise like a ton of banners on turn 5. And that strategy works even if you go first, if you have fast obsec that can move fast and raise banners. So think about that in your games in the future. That's a very cute thing to be able to do. And then I end up with a 12 on ambush. I hilariously don't get it on turn 2, which is usually the automatic turn for ambush. But again, if I just kill that rat, that single dude, that's 3 points on ambush because he would have been exposed because the Nexus would have bonked him with crossfire, and then I just shoot him with anything, and the bikes are behind him. But anyway, I wouldn't even need to expose because I would just shoot him with crossfire with something that arrived from deep strike that turn. That's 3 points on ambush. Ambush, by the way, I haven't mentioned this yet. It's a GSC secondary that I take a lot. It's up to 4 points a turn. There are up to 5 that you can score, but only 4 of them count. You know what I'm saying? It's 1 point for kill a unit that has a crossfire token on it. If you're not doing that every turn, I mean, I didn't this turn, but you basically do that every turn. 2 points for killing a unit while it is exposed. And it's got to be good old-fashioned exposed. It can't be any of the tricksy ways to get exposed. And then 2 more points if you kill a unit with a unit that arrives from deep strike. So unit arrives, shoots a thing that has crossfire, kills it, 4 points, moving on. You can get the 3 points on turn 1 because it also counts if you come from ambush. And the killing a unit that has a crossfire token on it doesn't specify ranged. So the Gene Stealer's killing the 10 guard that I threw a crossfire on via a shot from the sniper, that's 3 points because they arrived from an ambush this turn and you were crossfired.
Woo!
Get ambushed, bro.
Get crossfired by my claws, brother. All right,
it's
that's
very
cool.
silly. To be clear, I think it would have worked anyway, killing the squad with the bikes, depending on who ended up dealing the final blow there, if I was able to sneak exposure on it. Or, sorry, if I was able to do it with a unit that arrived from deep strike this turn. But that's neither here nor there. It's a fun little secondary.
This game feels really cool. It sounds like... I heard you talk about it briefly, but I was really excited to hear the in-depth summary. Mm-hmm. It sounds like a 1-2 punch of, like, the new aggressive Tyler, but then, like, the Tyler who, like, trades his models for points, because you got tabled that you won.
That's the...
Yeah, this is a strategy I employ with Necrons all the time, and it's very fun when it works.
100%. It is run away with the scoreboard. It is punish your opponent's score while you run yours up, and then keep yours and just win the race to 100. It's very fun. Like this list can table people. It absolutely does. 100%. I killed 2 Russes the entire game.
Yeah.
Because I just didn't need to, and I would rather trade my dudes for move blocking and for objective scoring.
Yeah. It's great.
It was super cool. This right here, this game is why I'm going to be playing this list for a lot longer, because it is so much fun. Oh my gosh. So that's my game of the guard. Final score is 92-72, which feels very comfy. What's nice about this list is it actually scores really high. I've been playing a lot of lists that don't score very high, and suddenly it's like, well, it doesn't matter if you do better, if I do better. Like I said, that ambush could very well have been a little bit higher. So the only thing I'm missing out on here is banners points, which, like, that's fine. If I can score a 95, you're probably not going to beat me. It doesn't matter what you're doing. So that's an interesting way to play the game that I'm looking forward to getting more of, because, man, oh man, seeing a score that starts with a 9 is not something I've done a whole lot in the last couple of months with forces.
Yeah, GSC are almost Necron-like in their ability to, like, if you don't mess with them, they can definitely score, like, 85, 90 plus points. Yeah. I know a lot of folks haven't played against the list before, so if you see it out in the wild and you don't have experience, try going aggressive against it, because if you sit back, they will just rack up a lot of points on you really fast.
100%. Cool.
Right.
So there's my round 4, and we're moving on down the line, and Nick has to play into the boys he was a little bit worried about. I mean, I had to face my fear, and I triumphed. Let's see how Nick can do against his fear, the Blood Angels, piloted by one of the best human beings in 40K. It's our boy JT Steiger. Lucas, tell us about JT. Tell us about this Blood Angels list. Tell us about what's about to happen.
Yeah, so I know JT's been playing Blood Angels for a little while, and definitely has some unique elements in his list that I think might be some effective tech against Nick. Let's see. So he's got a Patrol Vanguard. Blood Angels lists are usually either a battalion or a Patrol Vanguard. The strengths of the former being that you have a lot more CP to work with, and Blood Angels have some pretty good strats. The strength of the latter being you don't have to take Space Marines dogshit troop choices. So for HQs, we've got Sanguinary Priest with the Rights of War. In the Patrol, I'll just lump these in as well because a lot of Blood Angels characters kind of go hand in hand. We got Dante, we got Lamarties with the Juice Himself Up and the +2 to charge chance. Lamarties is great because I believe he's Death Company, so he can score the Fury of the Lost secondary. And for our complement of hammers, Blood Angels usually run between like 4 and 6 hammer units. We've got 3 units of 5 Sangers with swords. Usually we see slightly bigger squads, but 5 is a effective number to run. We've got 2 squads of 5 Death Company with jump packs and hammers. We've got 5 Death Company with jump packs, swords, and Inferno pistols. These guys are a new tech that we've been seeing in a lot of Blood Angels lists, specifically to score, again, Fury of the Lost, because that is a secondary that's scored when Death Company kill stuff and when they die. So if they can go fry something with their Inferno pistols, then all the better. Also in the list, we have a squad of 5 Van Vets with Claw and Pistol, Inferno Pistol, that is. We got 5 Assault Marines with a bunch of different weapons, and we have a Whirlwind to make things fight last. For the 1 troop choice that's in the Patrol, it's 5 Incursors, and then we also have 3 Eliminators for a little bit of forward deploy as well. So a nice smattering of Blood Angels units, a lot of MSU, a lot of different tech. Does he not have a Sanguinary Ancient? He does have a Sanguinary Ancient. Okay. Yeah. So he's got like the standard 4 characters. Dante, Chaplain, Priest, and Ancient.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is Blood Angels on the Scouring. This is the closest like objectives to each other. Not one of the closest DZs to each other, right? That's Conversion and Death and Zeal. But what I'm really worried about is JT just coming at me like turn 1 and just putting the pressure on my primary instantly. I know that I'm going to have to kill them to fight through this, and my experience into a lot of Blood Angels lists is that they do come like running at me wild. Usually like they take a turn to stage, and then they either throw their army forward in like 2 waves, or they throw it all forward at once. So I took no prisoners because he said he gave up a 12 on it. I took Assassinate because, you know, he's going to probably have to use his characters to do damage to me. And I also took Prospects of Wealth. I would want to take banners, but since this is a pressure matchup, I'm worried about him tearing down my banners. Prospects of Wealth is a Votann secondary. It's a little weird. It's at the end of a movement phase, a biker or a infantry unit. So it can perform this action. It has to be an objective marker you haven't scanned yet. It has to be outside of your DC, and it can't have any enemy models on it. I figured that if you wanted to try to use bodies to deny me, that I was just going to kill them and eventually like score it like maybe the last 3 turns. And if I went first, I would definitely get a turn 1, right? Or even like if he decided not to full commit, right? There's probably one objective that he's not going to be on. I can score turn 1. This one's a little goofy too. If you roll a 6, you like strike gold or something. And at the end of the game, if you're on that objective marker, you get an extra 3 points. And the bikes get a +1 to it because they have a scanner. So I figured it was like a nice 9, which to me seemed pretty good in this matchup. So JT does win the first turn roll off. You can see I deployed here pretty defensively because I'm really scared of those Death Company pregame moving with Forlorn Fury and getting all the buffs, because I think the math is they just kill a land train, and I really can't afford to have a land train killed like turn 0. I mean, it'll be turn 1, but yeah, like instantly. I think in retrospect, that was a bit of a mistake. I think I could have deployed a bit more forward and screening more, but you live and you learn. JT does charge, kill the bikes, and tag a land train, and that's kind of how the rest of this game goes. He did debate over a while, okay, do I expose my whole army right now while these Death Company go in and tag a train and basically say, Nick, you have 1 train and like all your other shooting elements to kill my entire army. Good luck. Or do I play this like missile style and just score 4 on Relentless and like 4 on Fury of the Lost every turn and force Nick to come to me? because those L's over there have no windows. So he's very comfortably sitting on the objectives, and I have to cut a wide angle to get to him. And he's cutting off that angle right now by move blocking it with Death Company. So he decides to go for the more like sling things out like bullets, which is, I think we realized at the end that maybe the more aggressive playstyle might have worked, and I'm interested in seeing it next time. But he did give me a very interesting problem to have to solve, because after these Death Company come in, they kill the things, I shoot them. I'm like, all right, he can't charge a land train now, like without, like, I can stay outside of his threat range now. He doesn't get to go, 26 inches anymore in charge. He only gets to go 14 in charge. So I'm able to like measure that out. So I start moving up aggressively. Unfortunately, he comes down. He sends in his next wave, like turn 2, clears me off of both my objectives, puts me on a 0. And I'm looking at the game now, and I'm like, if he's gonna keep putting me on a 0, I need to go to him now. So my plan is like, I'm gonna kill everything in front of me while moving the land trains as forward as possible. And then turn 3, I'm going to advance them over and be like, kill them. Good luck. There's Zerkers in there, right? He probably kills one. He probably doesn't kill the second one. The surviving one kills whatever charged it, and then turn 4 walks over and beams into his backfield, right? Pretty good plan. JT does a very, very good job of trying to muck this plan up at every angle. He sends out like 2 or 3 units that each have like 6, 7, 8-inch charges. He is not like relying on like one guy to like take this job down. He's like, I'm going to send out multiple things to try to accomplish this job. He gets like, the charges off he needs. He uses the movement to just stand in the way of my land trains so that they can't blast forward and advance the 6 to get that angle so that like I can shoot into his DZ, because he knows that he's losing the damage because he's like trading. He's losing the damage to kill them. At this point, he's decided, I'm not going to kill them. I'm just going to keep move blocking them over and over so they never get to shoot me, which was like a fantastic idea. And that's why this game was so close. Unfortunately for him, there were a couple times that he went in on Fear of the Loss and just bounced and just didn't kill a unit. As you can see here on turn, heading into turn 3, turn 4, and turn 5, he sent in a Death Company unit and didn't kill, but got killed back, so he at least got a point. Relentless, I was able to like kind of stop him from getting in my DZ pretty well. And eventually what it was is just like, I didn't actually kill his characters. He did a great job of, he was like, all right, it's turn 5. These characters aren't going to do any like damage to score many secondaries, but they give Nick points. I'm going to run them behind a wall so Nick can never shoot them in like the way back. And I'm like, bummer, dude. So there were some very sketchy moments. Very well played. Obviously, like if he took banners over Blade of Sanguinius, he would have won the game. But I think again, this was just like neither of us had played this matchup. We kind of were going with our best gut feeling. I haven't ever played JT before. I've played with him at LVTT, and it was a pleasure being on his team. I've been to his store, pleasure playing there, and I'm very glad that I finally had the opportunity to play him. This was, without a doubt, my favorite game of the tournament. So, thank you very much, JT.
Lucas, you're muted. Still muted, Lucas.
Would you have changed your secondaries now, having seen the way the game went? Or are you happy with your secondary choices?
What was it? I would have definitely taken, I think he miscalculated no prisoners. He said it was a 12, but it was actually like 99 wounds, but he just gave me the 12 because he's like, whoops, that's my bad. So I definitely should just take Ancestors. I think Assassinate's fine because I do think that in most matchups, if BA want to beat you, they have to throw their entire army at you. This is just one of those like unique scenarios where they can kind of hang back. So I can't really think of anything better either. Like I could take a Psychic secondary, but it like comes into the issue of they can just come running in and like jump over the screen and kill the Grimnir, Like it's not great.
I also played on this table, and it is kind of a wonky one, don't you? Do you agree with that? What do you think about this table?
Yeah, it's a cool table. The L's are very big, deceptively large. They cut off a lot of shooting angles. And also since they have no windows. With this on Hammer and Anvil, it was like I couldn't get a shot into his DC ever. So, yeah.
Nice.
I was basically having to sit there and wait.
This table looks real nice to me. I love it.
Oh, yeah. This is very favored for melee and shooting, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, which, I mean,
Sweet.
not a bad thing. Yeah, great game.
Nice. All right.
The air's still scary, though. I got to play some practice games,
yeah.
Lucas.
Let's round it out. Oh, Wait, what was Lucas's round 4?
The levy.
Oh, it was the Nids. Oh, yeah. Sorry. It's been a minute. All right. So we're moving on over to round 5. Nick and I are both still undefeated. Lucas at 3-1. Moving on to conversion, the other sweep and clear, which, whatever. Feeling pretty good. And up first, Emperor's Chosen Custodes. And this is Nick's opponent?
This is mine.
Lucas's opponent. All right. Lucas is playing into Emperor's Chosen Custodes. He's got a battalion featuring a Knight Censura, which is the sister's character.
Yep.
Cute. Shield cap on bike with the missile. 2 squads of 3 guard with spears. 5 prosecutors. 2 Vendreads. Vendreads? So just like a regular contemptor with a multi-melta and a fist.
Yep.
Yes,
like
sir.
An absolute wannabe Night Stalker.
Yep.
Gotcha. That's a decision. 5 prosecutors. That's the sisters? Or is it like the weird sisters?
Prosecutors are the troop sisters.
The troop sisters. Okay, yeah. 2... I already said the 2 Vendreads. A mess. 2x3 bikes with missiles. 3 Caladius grav tanks, the John Lennon special, with twin Iliastis accelerator cannons. Is that the 2 big shots, or is that the lot of medium shots?
That's the 8 2-damage shots.
8 2-damage shots. All right, and he's only got 2 CP to deal with. How did this go?
This was another game I did not get a picture of, unfortunately, because I was getting a little distracted by a certain venerable contemptor gangster who spent 1 CP pre-game to be in Deep Strike. And despite Abaddon's best efforts to carry, this man carried even harder.
Oh.
So this was the game of we each had a anime superhero character who was just 1v9ing the entire enemy army, and his guy was just a little bit better at it, I suppose. So this Chad Contemptor shows up in my DZ. He's like, "What's up? Multi-melta," just basically aces a knight from full. I'm like, alright, that was dope. And then I send Zinch Knight, I send Deep Strike Dog, who I deployed in this game because I figured I needed the bullets, and 2 Stalkers with fists into this man's. I do 3 damage.
What?
Guy proceeds to, I don't use -1 damage, but he proceeds to hit and wound with every attack, and I fail every save and just batter one of the war dogs in the face. And I was like, okay, my bad, I guess.
Right.
You know, turns the other war dog, melt a gun, like 12 damage. I was like, oh my god, this is brutal, man. So this Contemptor is killing like 4 war dogs in my backfield. Meanwhile, Abaddon has made himself a agent of bile, so like the Custodes guy just cannot kill him in 1 turn, and is wading through the bikers like killing the whole squad a turn. Heroic into the captain, smashed him, ran over, killed the other dreadnought, killed the Knight Censura the next turn. So he's just like slaughtering his way through the Custodes army. But unfortunately, with James going first and switching into the advance and action stance, he like got on all the objectives with his like random spear guard, put up with 3 banners, and because of the way the terrain was set up, that I kind of needed to protect my army from some of the shooting angles, which I realized wasn't really necessary. I unfortunately wasn't able to get on the objectives on turn 1, which gave him a 12 and a 3 on Sand Vigil, and me a 1 on Ruthless Tyranny. And that's like a bad hole to play from when your secondaries are as bad as mine were. Bring It Down was kind of sketch, and Storm of Darkness was also pretty damn sketch. So James did a great job of targeting my knights that were doing Storm and killing them. And I was never able to do it on my home field because he owned my home field objective on turn 2.
Wow.
Till the end of the game, basically.
The entire points differential in the game is that one thing on turn 1.
Basically, yeah.
Because if you go stand on that objective, that's 3 points on Stand Vigil, 4 points on his primary, 1 point of his banners, and
I had
2
a bunch
points
of
of
long
Ruthless
L's
Tyranny.
that were protecting me from the angles in his DZ, but they were also like preventing me from getting anywhere near the middle objective on turn 1.
Yeah, no, like I understand how the situation happens. It's just crazy to me that one thing of I can't put a knight in that place is the entire game. That's 10
Yeah,
points.
basically.
You got hit by the golden light of the Moiraxes. Oh my god.
Yeah. Dude,
So that stratagem still
Moirax,
right?
revisit me.
The teleport one.
Yep.
Golden Light of the Moraites or something.
I think that's the Dread Host specific strat. This is from Golden
Gotcha.
Light that come. But yeah, that guy definitely. There was a lot of Golden Light, and there was a lot of dead dogs, and that made me sad.
Dude, you have an issue with these like single models with an invuln stand out an objective, just like dancing around your whole army. It's very strange.
This is also like my 4th tournament loss in a row without a win on the Death and Zeal deployment type corners.
Yeah, search and destroy.
I realize I don't really know how to play that deployment type with knights yet.
All right, dude. Well,
yeah, it is what it is. It was a great game to James. This is my first game into Custodies in like at least 6 months, I would wager.
Yeah.
So definitely some learning experiences.
all right, dude.
All right. Very cool. Moving on down the line, more Custodies.
Oh my God.
This time it's for me. What do we got, Nick?
So it's also Emperor's Chosen, the good
crazy.
section. You know, I'm a big fan of Shadowkeepers myself, but Fort Finlip Against Mortals makes sense. This is played by Mitchell Hunter, actually, running Inquisitor Kodiaz. That is a Inquisitor, so he has access to Psychic Secondaries. Kodiaz also has some cool tech, like once per game when you use a strat, he can go, that's up by 1. Would you like to still pay for it? If not, you get a CP refunded, but you can't use the strat. There's a Shield Captain on Bike. This guy has, whatchamacallit, he's got the redeploy, he's got the feel no pain, he's got the missile, he's got the, reroll hits and ones on the charge. He also has a cool thing, like when he kills things, he gets to immediately make that many like extra attacks. Really, that's what Pork Exemplar is. He's got Trajan with all his warlord traits. Mitchell has a big grip, big brick of Custodian Guard, 6 shield and 2 spears, 2 squads of 5 prosecutors, that is his sister Silence troops, a squad of 5 Sagittarium, and then 3 squads of 3 bikes with missiles, and he does start with a hefty amount of CP at 3. So tell us about this game.
Alrighty. Unfortunately, I also did not grab a shot of this game, which is a bummer. I end up being the defender, and I have a really weird decision to make. Because, like, in a lot of situations, you're like, oh, defender, slam down, ruin in center of table. Something we didn't mention in the beginning of this is that we are playing with WTC FAQ for fighting in walls, which is a real big deal. I didn't know this either until Mitch walked by and told me, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. You can live in walls.
I was under the impression it was Jason's weird, like, at a certain random threshold, you can't do it anymore.
That's what
I've never understood, but...
Yeah, I don't, whatever the case. But that was the thing. So I'm thinking, like, I don't really need to hide in the middle at the end of the day. Like, it's not worth that much to me because his stuff moves very fast. He's got a bunch of OBSEC dudes that are going to trundle up and bonk. So my thought was, how about, as defender, I place my first piece as a forest on his close objective. Seems like a good call. In hindsight, this was a terrible decision. But at the time, it seemed pretty clever to me. What I neglected to think about is that he's not fast enough to get to that objective anyway. So whether or not, certainly not with his OBSEC, so whether or not it's protected doesn't matter, and him then being allowed to slam an L in the middle doesn't mean he can hold it especially well, but it did mean that his Kodiaz, his Inquisitor, was able to nestle up in there and just cast Interrogate from a very safe position, and it was a big piece of light cover for him to put a bunch of dudes on, which I do ignore light within 12, but I'm not always within 12 if I'm shooting at someone in the middle of the table. So very good placement on his part there that I definitely messed up on. I end up going first for the 5th time in a row this weekend. And I say, fuck it. We're going. I know that I can do a lot of damage to you because I've got plenty of reasonable AP. And the thing about Custodies that I have found is that if you don't try to nickel and dime them, like if you try to just let them do their thing for 2 turns, by the time they're all over you, you do not have enough bullets left to deal with them. You have to be putting saves on them immediately and continuing to the entire game and just shoot them until they're dead. They die faster than you think they would, but not that fast. But you can't afford to spend 2 turns futzing around before they decide to commit. Doesn't work. So I commit pretty hard, and it goes okay. I really try to kill the squad of 5 Sagittarum because I'm thinking I don't want that unit shooting at me at all. And that's the thing that the Genestealers can do good damage to, so I send up a squad of bikes, they huck a demo, they shoot flamers. My sniper also puts a crossfire over there in the first place. They're exposed because they're within 6 of bikes. And they kill like a dude and a half, and the Steelers go in, kill 2.5 dudes, but he ends up with 1 dude left, so no ambush for me turn 1, which is a bummer, but that's kind of just how it goes. He moves up, and his clapback honestly did not impress me at all. At all. He ends up killing like 5 dudes from 2 different bike squads. I'm like, all right, cool. 2 dudes back to this squad, 2 dudes back to that squad. Like, I was feeling kind of rizzed. It's unfortunately, because of the way it was positioned, I wasn't quite able to sneak back onto my close objective, actually. The bikes ended up getting pulled off of that to stay in banner range, and I needed a 3 to get at him back, and I just didn't. But I hold the bottom right objective instead, which is how I get an 8, which is very funny because I command phase get bikes back. So that feels pretty good. I was close to a 12, but didn't quite make it happen. My Brood Swarm is looking good. I didn't R&D turn 1. This is a massive mistake. I just forgot to get a squad of dudes out of the boat to do it in my own DZ and then just get back in on turn 2. Just completely forgot. Boneheaded mistake. Cost me 4 points because I wasn't able to get my DZ at all the entire game as it turned out. Super stupid on my part. 100%. The primary goes back and forth pretty good, but he ends up being able to out-weather me over time, and I am just not getting it done. I think that I am target prioritizing poorly. Here's the thing he did that was brilliant. Big props to Mitchell for this. My thought, looking at this matchup, is that the bikes are a big issue because they have a lot of attacks and they're very fast, and I don't like things that are very fast, because he took Assassinate. They're the thing that's going to want to come kill my characters. So I got to kill the bikes. But Mitchell knows this too, and he's not an idiot. He's actually quite intelligent, as it turns out. So he puts the bikes all fairly far back where they can all shoot. And I'm like, that's fine. I can just deep check out of them. And then he parks his bike captain in the middle of my face and Trajan in the middle of my face and says, here are my characters. Go for it, buddy. And I'm like, okay, I'll kill your characters. Those characters don't die unless you put your entire army into them. And if I put my entire army into Trajan and a bike cap, he's going to do a lot of nasty things to me. And I end up not killing Trajan. I just kill the bike captain because he's way faster and the missile is more concerning to me. And also he's way more killable somehow. Because Trajan is a 3-up invuln, right? You still have one of those?
No.
No?
But he's 8 wounds on like a 2-up, 4-up, 5-up Fill No Pain. And he can once per game 0 a damage.
Yeah, he's got the 0.
He also can transhuman and turn off the rerolls once per game. Whereas
That's
the bike captain can't.
He's got access to transhuman. The bike captain's getting wounded on 2s by a bunch of stuff. That's a big deal. He burned his no rerolls turn 1 on those Sagittarum, which was a weird choice. I don't think that worked out well for him. But whatever the case may be, I kill the bike captain and I line up some like longer shots. And I go to kill off his Sisters of Silence with a squad of Seismics, and 1 survives, which is massively annoying because if he loses that home field objective, he's losing a lot of primary points. That would have dropped him to a 0 on turn 2 instead of that 4. He just sticks a couple too many saves. I go in and I have a chance, finally, to hit Kodiaz, because again, he's taking Psychic Interrogation. And if on turn 2 I kill Kodiaz, that's 12 points gone. At least he's at most. But, it's holding to a 3 on that secondary. And Kodiaz just bosses all of his saves. I hand him like 8 3-up saves, and he hits all 8 of them. And I'm like, all right, cool. I then try to get clever. I send this Rock Grounder up that's been brought back to full health that I've got some dudes inside of up the middle. And I have it charge into the foot guard in the hopes that he will kill it, and then I will auto-explode, which will kill off another one of his foot guard and put my dudes in a really good spot. And it'll also hit Kodiaz. But it doesn't matter because Kodiaz has bossed all of his saves. If Kodiaz is down to 2 or 3 wounds at that point, I get real excited, but no such luck. Kodiaz ends up living on. Eventually, I have some bikes that go all the way around and end up killing. I end up killing that last Sister of Silence who's on the objective in combat with a bike, with a quad, after its flamer fails to kill her because he bosses his 4-up saves. But we go and we do eventually kill her, and that's how we get a 6 on tertiaries there. But Mitchell just is not dying. I have devoted too many resources to things that are not winning him the game, and the bikes are just getting in places. They're killing off characters. Here was a really cute thing that happened that I thought was really interesting. Unquestioning loyalty is a really good rule to know about if you're playing GSC. Basically, if I fail a save with a character, a model within 3 inches on a 4-up jumps in front and dies. Cool. And then you ignore the wounds. Fun fact, first of all, according to Mitch at least, I don't know, Mitch Pelham, the judge, not Mitchell, the opponent, things that ignore wounds, the Reaper of Obliterax, the Filial, whatever, he says they also ignore unquestioning loyalty, which I thought is a crazy ruling. Like, not unreasonable, but like didn't even occur to me as a possibility. But obviously he's playing Custodes. Mitchell doesn't have any of that. So what I was able to do was something he does that's really smart, annoyingly smart, is he would charge the bikes and then consolidate into the neophytes. If he charges the neophytes, he has to fight them, and all I have to do is break coherency, and I am immediately out of combat. Right? Like there is no way that is a concern, and I'm getting D6 dudes back. I've got plenty of seismic cannons to go around. But if he just consoles in them, doesn't have to attack them, now I'm stuck and I can't fall back and shoot. There's just no way to do it in the GSC without psychic stimulus, which I don't have. The bikes obviously fall back, shoot, and charge, but that's an annoying play that he does really well. But he does that with Trajan. Trajan goes in, and then obviously Trajan's going to bonk a whole bunch of neophytes in combat on his turn, because I choose not to fall back. I think he like heroic into bikes, killed bikes, and then consoled into the neophytes all on his own turn. Was very cool. Whatever the case. So what I do, though, is he then sends bikes into the Nexos, and they're going to kill him so bad. It's not even funny. But before they kill him, I roll 2 4-ups on the first 2. It's got to be the first 2, because or maybe it's 2 of the 3 because they're only 2 damage. I don't know, whatever the case. 2 guys jump in front of the Nexos and take damage for him, and those 2 guys are the 2 guys in combat with Trajan. So on his turn, this is happening, and Trajan is now not in combat, and it's his turn, so he can't heroic. So Trajan doesn't get to fight that turn, which was very funny. That when I say that his army has jank, that is what I am talking about. I love that shit. But yeah, he's able to weather the storm for just long enough. I'm not able to weather the storm for long enough. He's able to not get hit too hard, and he ends up picking up really big points on the tail end. My ambush ends up being terrible. I keep just barely missing units and just cannot get it done, and then he immobilizes my seismics for a turn. It's a bummer. If I kill that squad of sisters on the turn I arrive, that's how many points of swing is that? That's 4 points of ambush. I would have no. That would have been 1 point of ambush because I already got 3 on that turn. Anyway, not important. He ends up. My ambush isn't great. His secondaries work out really well. He's able to get a lot of assassinates. I probably could have bubble wrapped a little bit better. And 2 different times, Trajan got a heroic off that I was really annoyed by. That dude just heroicing 6 for free at all times is real good. Dude.
Yeah.
I do have 1 CP to stop him from doing it if I put a token on him, but it's
hard to get tokens on him.
It's hard to get tokens on him, and it's hard to find the CP for it.
Yeah.
So that was real annoying. But messing up the R&D, big bummer. Messing up the ambush, big bummer. A 41 on primary is totally respectable for me. I don't mind that at all. It's only getting 30 points of secondary that it ends up being a really big issue. So Mitchell ends up getting all of his damn points, except for 3 on interrogate because he killed all my characters on turn 4. So he ends up taking this one 97 to 81. Definitely a matchup I'll need some more practice into. It feels very winnable, but not this time, unfortunately.
Well, we do have some custodies provided by Kebby's Mech Shop if you ever want to throw down against them.
Ooh, might need to do that. I might also hit up our boy Matt, get some reps into Stodes over the wintertime. We'll see if he's willing to play him. I think he's pretty set on EC right now or something, but anyway. Very, very cool game. And moving on now to...
This is my game.
Did you... Oh, it's time, Nick.
This is the boogeyman, dude. Goodbye.
Nick, I can't hear you. Are you talking? Are you muted?
I am.
Is your mic messed up?
I can hear him.
I can't hear Lucas either. What's going on?
Oh, Tyler's messed up.
Guys, try and talk.
People in the
I
chat,
don't hear Lucas.
let us
Can
know.
anyone hear Lucas in the chat? What's going on? Nick and Lucas, can you guys hear each other? Am I the problem?
Yes.
I'm the problem. Fantastic. But you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes.
Weird. All right.
think your headphones
Ryan
are-
says
I'm going to
we
try
can
to
hear
get that
Nick and
sorted
Lucas.
out. How about you guys talk about this game?
Cool.
Oh,
All right.
Nick. Well, I'm gonna go through this list with you while Tyler figures out technology.
Yeah, dude.
Okay. This is Hank's funny list. It's got 2 tank commanders with vanquishers. One's got old grudges. He's got a commissar. He's got 2 squads of 3 mortars. He's got 3 squads of 3 Russes with armored tracks, heavy flamers, and plasma cannons. How'd the game go?
All right. So this is the boogeyman list. So Hank smashed an RTT with this like 2 weeks prior. This has been, I think, scoring no less than like 95 every single game up till this round, and I draw it. And this is the game that I'm terrified of. Because I know my army can, if he lets me beam, each tank, each hecaton can kill maybe 2 Russes. And that's it. So I kill 4, and then there's 7 more left. They do not have 6s to hit auto wound, which is pretty good for me, because he doesn't get to reroll wounds or damage against me. But he does have expert sharpshooters, which means he gets to reroll a hit, which is very scary for those 3 vanquishers? No, it's just... Did I miss Vanquisher? I could have sworn there were like 3. Okay. Whatever.
Yeah, I thought he has 2 tank. No, he only has 2.
Yeah. All right. Must have been remembering this game wrong. So yeah. But it is very scary on the Vanquishers. The Commissar can hand out regimental orders to the mortars, which is cool, and Perfectus orders to the mortars, which is cool. But he can't hand out mechanical orders to the tanks. So I know that killing the tank commanders is a very high priority. Old Grudge is a little different now. It used to be reroll wounds. Now it's after we've deployed. He picks a unit of mine, and then that tank commander gives off a 6-inch aura to other tanks, but not tank commanders. It's like squadron or something. So the non-character tanks get +1 to wound against that target as long as they're within 6 inches of that tank commander. Since it is conversion, this is the mission that if your warlord dies, you lose CP, and tank only starts on 1, and there are a lot of good like 2 CP guard strats. There's a lot of good 1 CP guard strats. So he's a little bit worried about getting his Vanquisher commander killed, for no reason, and just losing CP. I actually hadn't talked to Tyler about his guard games yet. There were like so many people that we wanted to talk to that we like didn't bump into each other like when we like went out for dinner and everything, and they woke up before me.
Yeah, we were sharing a room, and we had not exchanged like a single word in like 15 hours.
Yeah, so my whole plan, so there's a tank order, there's a new tank order for those who don't know, and the tank order gives the tanks +2-inch move and advanced remain stationary, which means they now go 12 plus D6 and can shoot. And I'm terrified of that, because I know that these tanks can just come out and cut angles on me, and I'm like, I don't want this to happen. So I deploy my land forts pretty defensively. I try to set up these like terrain things, so it's like, he doesn't just like go here, gets aligned to my DZ. He like goes here, which hits a terrain feature, right? So then he has to like go here to like see this. So this is after my turn 1, actually. I look at the board. I also set up the bikes to pregame move to move block his advanced remain stationary, so he can't just touch my terrain and unlock it. And I also picked more defensive secondaries, because like if I'm gonna win this game, there's a moment where I full expose, try to do as much damage as possible while trying to slow him down simultaneously. And then I try to slow him down while scoring my points. So I took banners, because I'm like, I'm going to teleport the call up to my objective turn 1 and just plant a banner with the call, right? There's no way he dies turn 1, because the bikes are going to be screening the advanced remain stationary. So I at least get a 10 on banners. Fingers crossed. I took mental, because his tank commanders, I could park up behind this crystal right here in the middle with my Grimnir and just keep interrogating a tank commander. And that those tank commanders are going to have to either touch that piece of terrain or like come out to play eventually if they want to like do damage, and they're the scariest thing into my tanks. And I also took bring it down, because I'm gonna hopefully kill 8 to 5, like 4 to 5 tanks, and they're 2 points each. So there you go. After going first, I looked at the pregame move, and I'm like, oh, I can just like pregame move the normal move, and he can't leave his DZ. This is busted. And that's exactly what I did. And you can see there's a squad of red bikes over there that actually charges what his tank commander and bases it so that that guy can't shoot his big cannon out of combat across the board. And also I'm OBSEC, and he's not OBSEC there, so I get 4 points for taking his home. I'm like, I already got a 6-point lead on conversion.
That's
right?
rude as hell, brother.
I have move blocked his
love
tanks. I have got both my banners up. I have started interrogating him. And this tank, the one he did an Old Grudge, advanced out aggressively. So this Hecatonk is ready to go up next turn and shoot into his like DZ basically, and just go crazy and see how much damage it can do. And the Xerxen started like threatening like a 9-inch charge into his castle, which I'll go for a coin flip on Xerx to win this game. He responds by killing all my bikes. With the on the bottom right there, or his top right, he yells at those guys to advance to remain stationary, and he rolls like 2 5s to advance on like the first 2 tanks, and I'm like, ooh, bummer. So those ones are able to get like by touching this like piece of terrain in the bottom right, they're able to get a line into this Hecatonk. Up top, those guys are able to touch that piece of terrain, and I think he's able to like barely get 3 in. I think I could have stopped one of them, but I didn't really like quite measure out the thing. He's like just barely able to. I'm like, looks good. So he gets 5 in. 3 get reroll 1s to hit, 2 don't. D6 plus 3 shots apiece. Hitting on 3s. 3 of them are rerolling 1s. 2 of them aren't. Puts a Hecatonk down to 7. I'm like, nice, we're good. What he has done now by doing all this, he has killed my bikes, which is getting him judgment token. He's been on objectives to get judgment tokens, right? I've shot my bikes at some things with the searchlight to give judgment tokens. He's got a lot of judgment over there. And he also has 3 Russes lined up in a line. So this Hecatonk that is deployed aggressively lets its Zerkers out, and then it moves up, and it shoots, and it beams all of its beams through 3 Russes. And the other Hecatonk walks out in the back, and it beams its big one through 2 of those 3 Russes. And it shoots all its little guns into a tank that I like knocked to 6. And my Zerkers are also threatening a charge in case this like doesn't clear everything. So the combination of all the fun strats I get to use, reroll hits, mortals, etc., I think I pick up 3 of the tanks in shooting, and there's 1 left on like 2 wounds, and then my Zerks get a charge into it, and send it to hell, and then touch another tank, and we're looking pretty good. My 7-wound tank is healed up to 11, and this is when Hank's like, time to, go crazy. He unleashes everything into it. I think a few of them are having to shoot through the force, so like some of them are hitting on 3s, some of them are hitting on 4s. Most importantly, the first Vanquisher cannon fails to wound. I also think he does have 3 Vanquishers. I'm seeing 3 big turrets here. I just think it either wasn't listed that way in the list, or I just like defaulted to Plasma. Because the first Vanquisher failed to wound. The next Vanquisher wounds me, and I roll a 6 up armor save, which is the armor save I get.
You bastard.
And he's like, and I'm like, woo, don't have to use the 0. I still have the flip of 0.
Mm-hmm.
The next one also fails to wound me because they're wounding on 3s. And I'm like, oh. Hilariously, some heavy bolters get through, and I have to 0 a heavy bolter, and my tank lives on 2. At this point, though, Hank has lost the damage race. He has lost 4 and like a half Russes, and he has killed nothing except for 5 Zerkers and 6 bikes. So I don't even heal the tank anymore because the healing's at the end of movement. I go 1 CP fight on full, and I blast that thing over to his side of the board. I'm like, this thing is now a missile. It is, with its last gasp of life, going to shoot as much as it can. It decides to kill another tank. I'm like, nice job, boy. The other Hecatonk moves up to the middle. Some Zerkers get out and plant a banner. Call's holding it strong on the top. We're interrogating. Things are looking great. And I charge like one of his tank commanders with my tank. That tank commander shoots me in melee. Wounds me. I roll a 1 to save, but I have like 4 CP. And Hank's like, you want to reroll that? I'm like, sure, man, might as well. Roll a 6 to save. Thing lives. I'm like, all right, dude. It didn't really matter. I actually wanted it to kind of die to blow up if it could on a 6, but then that one just backs out of combat, and the full health Hecatonk comes over and just, well, the Zerkers go crazy, and game's over. Hank then is like, I'm not gonna win this game. I'm gonna like retreat from combat and like just go score as many points as I can. And that's what you can see at the end there. He gets like 2 8s because I opted to send the Zerks into his castle on his home objective rather than pressure the bottom right. I'm like, you can get 2 8s, dude. Like, we're good.
Yeah,
I got the. I'm gonna end this game because somehow I pulled this shit out. Like, I'm more focused on ending the game than denying your points. So, yeah.
Wow, Hank's secondaries are terrible. Like, not just in the particular execution, but like that is honestly, he should take engage. Right?
Yeah.
If he's going to advance and remain stationary, and he's playing quarters,
Especially with that many tanks, like you can get it from multiple turns.
yeah, it's like that feels like a 10 to me, as opposed to assassinate, which feels like a 6 at best.
Yeah, I think he was planning on tabling me. I mean, because he tabled every other person that came before.
Yeah, but if he's tabling you, he's getting like a 12 or a 13 on engage.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think this is one of those things, once he plays it again, he'll know what to do next.
Yeah.
But what it really came down to is just like, I mean, this game was, 98 to 60? So the choice of engage would make it marginally closer. But it was less that and more just like, I got to move block his army and like 0 out of phase of damage. And then
It's a shooting magic at the end of the day. So if you lose 4 tanks out of your 11 and then you don't do any damage back, game's basically over.
Because then it also lets me get my melee threats into him, like, for free, which is that's it.
Definitely.
It came down to that guy living. That guy living on 2 was just there we go. Damage race over. So yeah, I'm feeling great. I don't know what lists I'm scared of anymore because there's no more Tau. Tau's been gone for a bit. There's no more guard. Tyler got taken out, which, like, I mean, I would have loved to play Tyler in the finals because that means one of us is going to win. But it's myself. It is our boy Ryan Sherwich playing Ardent Sound Sisters, which I'm actually scared of because Sisters secondaries are nuts. And it's Mitchell Hunter. So those are one of the 3.
And Ryan,
one of the 2 I'm playing.
We'll talk more about Ryan later, but that dude knows how to kill big shit, apparently.
Oh, yeah, dude. That dude's dice are kissed by Celestine themselves. So.
Very nice. All right, so we move on in finally to round 6, Data Scry Salvage, and we know what y'all are here for, so Lucas and I will be quick about this. Lucas is playing into our boy Jeremiah the Bergdale, who's running Twilight Harlequins. Very cool. Love to see the Harleys. Got a Shadow Seer. We got 2x12 troops, 9 troops. We got another Shadow Seer, a Troop Master with Foot in the Future and the Veiled King and the Twilight Fang and all that good stuff. 5x5 troops with double fusion, double neuro, a Jeff Dester, another Jeff Dester. Each one has some stuff. It doesn't matter what it does. 5 of boats and a single CP is all he's got. Tell me about do we have this? Yeah, all right, Lucas. Walk us through this horrific tragedy.
Though we played on Data Scry.
Yeah.
Basically, the entirety of the game happened in this one hell building that I'm going to call the Harlequin Morgue. Jeremiah goes first. These big boxes are boxes. They don't have any windows, so he catapults his whole army into there, and his thinking is, I'll move block Lucas with my 4-star Weavers, which won't die to his shooting, because he's -1 to hit, no rerolls. And then, I'll have a safe launching off point for all my gremlins to launch into his backfield. That's what I call them. Little Harlequins, dude. They're little gremlins. He moves up. He shoots the Knights down to 4 wounds. Passes to me. I move my entire army toward his funny building. I shoot my way through all 4 boats. I also kill basically all of the contents. In that process, 2 of the boats explode, doing 2 wounds because the boats contain the characters. And I popped the character ones first. All the characters take 2 mortals, so do all 3 of his squads that are hiding in there. Then I charged in. I used a bunch of strats to do extra damage. I killed like 6 Harlequins. He interrupted and killed a knight. I auto-exploded with that knight. I auto-exploded that knight with a CP I stole from the interrupt. Doing another D3 mortals to all 5 of his characters and all 3 of his squads. And finishing off that the one last boat around back of the building. I then continued to fight, killing one of his characters. I then used Ravenous Terror Shades on a squad of Harlequins, killing like 3 of them. And then I used the Herpes stat to splash one more mortal to basically every unit. This resulted in both of his Death Jesters dying, his Troop Master dying, one of his Solitaire dying, and sorry, not Solitaire, Shadow Seer dying, and the other one being at 1 wound. So I killed 4 out of his 5 characters on turn 1. I killed 4 out of his 5 boats on turn 1. And I basically wiped out like half of his troops as well, because then all those guys had to take a tough leadership check as well. So yeah, the game basically instantly ended because my opponent came too close to me. The Chaos Knights Classic.
Cool.
Yeah, I heard that there's some sort of... Oh, sorry.
No, go for it.
I heard there's some sort of infection by, like, the Dark Mechanicus this game. Some sort of, I don't know, curse upon the vehicles. Is that true?
Oh, with the explosions?
Yeah, like, didn't every vehicle explode?
Yeah, like 2 out of his 4 Starweavers that were move blocking right in front exploded, and then I auto-exploded that night, and then one other night that he managed to kill also just naturally exploded. Dawn never saw combat, he never shot, I think he shot one of the boats or something, but he never charged, he never got charged, and by the end of the game he was at like 2 wounds left from explosions. Classic, dude.
So can you walk with again? In that single turn, what was the total kill count?
So I totaled this up exactly. Out of his 58 troops, I killed 34. Out of his 5 boats, I killed 4. And out of his 5 characters, which is the rest of his list, I killed 4 and put the last one on 1.
Okay, dude. Jesus Christ.
I think I just drive home after that, dude. I don't think I play anymore.
Yeah, I felt super bad for
I mean,
Jeremiah.
this was round 6, but
Oh,
yeah,
God.
100%. Okay, cool. Well, there's one of our ones. This is the tournament of one-sided matchups.
Yeah. Today, I have played 1 turn against Leviathan Nids. I have played basically 1 turn until Custodes Chad Dreadnought showed up and lost me the game. So that was a 1-turn game as well. And then this game was also a 1-turn game. So I played like 3 or 4 rounds of 40k today.
Damn, dude.
All right, bro.
Let's go, boys.
Cool.
All right, over to y'all.
All right, so of the 6 guard players, I've played 2 of them so far, which means I should be safe. No, fucking hell. My turn to play Hank.
Goodbye, my friend.
All right, so we are both exhausted at this point. It is round 6. That round 5 went to time, was a very, very long game. Very technical. I've been playing an army with 100 and... How many dudes? No, it's not quite... With like 90 dudes in it. It's a mess. I'm exhausted. Hank's exhausted. We're both out of the tournament. This is not a very close technical game, right? Like, if we play this game 3 or 4 more times on good days, this might be really interesting, but this was a go-first game, and Hank went first. I can pretend to try to hide, and he shoots me off the fucking table. It's a bummer. My secondary game is still really solid. I still kill 6 fucking tanks because, get them. Seismic cannons do good work, but like I can't get R&D in his home quadrant, which is fine. I definitely couldn't take banners. That was about as good as we were getting because he can just keep Commissar ordering his mortars to 12-inch no deep strike. But I still got my 15 on Brood Swarm, which is nice. And yeah, Hank scores all the points. This is why I think Hank can take Engage, because I saw him do it, and it works just fine. Especially on Data Scry. Not a ton to talk about out in this game. I want to get to the one we're all waiting for. I know we're over 3 hours in. But guard tanks go burr. All right. Last but certainly not least, we've got the final match of Merry Slaaneshmas 2022. We've got our boy Nicholas Olsen Johnson's Leagues of Votann wading through 5 rounds of 40k to make it here to play against the guy who just beat me, Mitchell Hunter, and his Emperor's Chosen Custodes. Only other undefeated is our boy Ryan, who, spoiler alert, is going to lose this round to our other boy Trimble. So this is for all the marbles. You've heard about this Custodes list before. Mr. Olsen Johnson, tell us about the game.
All right, dude. It's Data Scry. What am I thinking? I'm like, I'm gonna take Assassinate because he has to throw the bike guy in Trajan at me. That's at least a 7. at some point Cody S is probably going to do a psychic action, get a judgment, right? And then I go snipe him like in the head, turn 3 onwards, right? I'm going to take Ancestors Are Watching because kill his stuff. And I'm going to take Prospects of Wealth because I'm a little scared of banners because it's pretty hard for me to get banners up turn 1. I actually can't. My army's too slow to get to the objectives, I'm pretty certain. Also, like, they walk out there, banners, and then get slammed by bikes next turn. And it's like, oh, cool, I just threw away, like, my 3 units of OBSEC to put up a banner. So I'm like, I'm actually going to take out Prospects of Wealth because the action completes end of turn. I can get a pretty comfortable, like, if I go first, I definitely go Prospect 1 on his side of the turn, right? Get a 3, and I definitely go then Prospect the 2 on my side of the turn to get a 9. And chances are, at one point, I roll a 5 up with the bikes, and I, strike gold, and I get a 12, right? Yeah, he plays this very interestingly. He takes no prisoners, banners, and Mortalis, so 2 very like aggressive secondaries and 1 more defensive. Banners is totally the right call. And I win the defender roll off. I slam a force down in the middle, so he can't like put a objective to safely hold it and put a banner up like on his on the. I guess there's the one in the back corner. I'm never getting to that one. You can have that, dude. The one here, though, which is like on his side but closer to me, I don't want you staging from there. So I'm going to slam a force there because this force will also try to block Warp Ritual. Because I didn't want to be taking Warp Ritual with Cody as and just sitting back there. He decides to he goes first, which is great for me because I'm like, that's like a nice 12 at the end of the game if he doesn't do anything. He just decides to challenge me to a staring contest. And he just kind of like puts up a banner, data scries for 1. Or he puts up 2 banners. He puts up 1 out there and 1 on his home field. And just kind of stages everything behind walls. And I'm like, okay. I'm going to respond by like everything kind of aggressively moves up while still screening the trains from charging. I even use the 1 CP advanced 12 on a train because I'm like, I can't shoot anything turn 1? Cool. 1 CP, I can shoot anything turn 2. And I also put the bikes up. The bikes strike gold instantly. Let's go. And then he's like, all right, I'm going to continue the staring contest. I'm going to position my bikes to snipe your bikes, but also make it so that with the 10-inch move, your tank can't shoot me. And I'm like, okay. And then he shoots some bikes. He kills 2, which isn't enough. And I get a 12. And then my tank moves up and touches a piece of terrain and goes and kills 6 guys from his spear and shield squad that I can see. Because there wasn't really anywhere to hide those guys. He just thought, like, behind a wall, 1 tank shooting them, they'd be fine. I'm like, nope. You lose 6. Because I do 10 mortals to them. And he actually made 8 field pins on the mortals. Pretty good. And he's like, okay, staring contests will lose me the game. Time to go into Rendax and slam you. And I'm like, all right, here it is. And he goes into Rendax, slams into me. Tank lives on 4. And he's not able to wrap the tank because I have like guys in the back. So my guys move away from the tank. The slimy little berserkers crawl out of the side hatches. And they kill everything on my side of the board except for Trajan. Trajan's just sitting there watching. And at this point, Mitch is like, I'm pretty sure you won the game. And I'm like, for sure, we can try to calculate Ancestors Are Watching. And he's like, you know what? Let's keep playing. And he sends Trajan in like a beast. Dude, fights some Zerks. His last squad of bikes fights some Zerks. We have a good time. I end up killing it. He then tries to deny Ancestors Are Watching and assassinate by just sending Kodiaz to the back. I'm not able to get to his side of the board, sadly. Like, my bikes are like way too far away. My like Tonk is way too far away. So I'm not able to like tear down one of his banners. I'm not able to get my other prospects. So I only get a 9 on it. And my call teleporting with like full reroll to hits into Kodiaz gets 4 wounds there, right? At like 4-3-2, ignoring cover. And Kodiaz is like, what if I made all my invulns? So I'm like, all right, yeah, man, I'm not getting assassinate on that guy, I guess. So, I mean, he did a good job denying points at the end of the game, but it was like the game was over after he decided to, like, I don't know, go for this. Because the staring contest wasn't going to win him the game. I was just going to win. I was a little nervous because I knew there was another 5-0 out there. And I'm like, I have to go score points this game because if Ryan beats Steve, I'm going to win this game and then maybe not win the tournament. So it's like a weird little interesting metagame there, which I don't really like to think about. I like to focus more, on the game I'm playing. right? Because it's like you should just win the game, win the tournament, right? But that's not how this tournament's going to like maybe work out. So I'm like, I have to win the game and I have to score points.
Yeah, so. I mean, like to Ryan's credit, it's random pairing who got the pair down. He should not be out of the running just based on that unfortunate coin flip.
That too. Yeah. So yeah, that was the game. Dwarves are really tanky, dude. That's basically what I learned. Learn to stop being a bitch and just drive that tank forward.
Well done, dude. That is a tournament dub ski. Let's go.
Stuff, brother.
And there it is.
She is.
Merry Slaaneshmas 2022. In the books. Thank you, guys.
Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. Hell yeah. Whew. 3 hours 15. We'll make the reflections quick, but fucking awesome, my guy. All right. Got a couple shout outs that we want to throw around for people who did well at the event who are homies of ours.
Yep. Members of the community as well.
Donald Plummer, who's in the chat right now. Love you, bro. Congratulations on best overall. Your tower gorgeous. I can't believe you lost to Death Guard, but that's another story. Noah Bedome, second best overall. Very nice. Tragic he had to get railed by Nick round 1, but that's just how it goes sometimes. JT Steiger, best painted favorite army. Very well deserved. Stuff is gorgeous. Sorry you also had to get railed by Nick in a different round. Our boy Steven Trimble ends up beating out our boy Ryan and ends up with second best general with the Dawn and, what was he up to, 50?
I think 60
Plague Marines. 60 Plague Marines? He was this close.
In the Dawn.
He was this close to dropping the Dawn to bring 20 more Plague Marines and 2 Ox support detachments, which I really want to see that list. But the man likes a particular data sheet.
Love stinkers, bro.
Yeah. Of course, Mitchell Hunter finishes 8th, but he did lose on top table, so got to give him a shout out. Our boy Ryan Sharowick, 5-0 going into round 6, playing Argent Shroud.
King shit.
We're going to have Ryan on next week to talk about this because holy shit, that's awesome. Dude is not playing, as far as I know, dude just came up with this shit. I don't know if this is popular in Europe or something, or if he's just doing his thing.
I think he did his own thing and did really well.
I think we'll hear more. We'll hear the details next week. But man, that's awesome. And then of course, massive shout outs to our Jason Bird and his store Lion Guard Gaming. Ran this whole event, did a fantastic job of it. They run some of the best events in the Pacific Northwest, if not in the world. We're so freaking lucky to have easy access to that shop and to Jason and to all of his goons who put on such a fantastic run around. Am I missing something? Or something funny happening in chat?
Yes. No, you just said goons.
So Nurgle Matt comes in with the very astute observation that what in the hebig, and then he says, "Typhoon." And then some stuff about Plague Marines.
All right, very cool. Right. Thank you for joining us, Nurgle Matthew. All right, cool. So, reflections, guys. Don't want to spend too long on this, but first off, Nick, you won the tournament. Anything that you would have done differently? What's happening next? Are you just copy and pasting this list into Vegas and going to go rail some more people?
I think I'm going to go play this list of Vegas, dude. This list is super fun. Obviously, there's still some tough matchups out there. I never played Tau all weekend. I never played Demons all weekend. I'm going to try to practice those. I got winter break coming up because I work at a school. Epic. And so I got 2 whole weeks to just hopefully play some practice games against some people.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Votann are good. It's hilarious to me. They had a 48% win rate that weekend, but they're a good army.
They had a 48% win rate this weekend?
Yeah. I think their overall is like somewhere in the mid 50s, but yeah. Yeah, they won a major. The biggest tournament they've ever won, and they got a 48% overall. So I don't know what's going on.
If y'all are playing Votann out there and you're going under 500, I would politely ask you to just chill for like 3 weeks until the next data slate comes out.
No. We
need that back
more
to
of
where
you.
It's supposed to be.
Get as many Sagittars as you can, as many Hearthguard as you can. All right, we don't need them nerfed before LVO.
Utter.
I actually think the army is
nonsense.
pretty fair. It's just kind of like the book just kind of needs a rewrite, dude.
All right,
Fuck you.
cool. Lucas, Dogs and the Dawn. How are we feeling?
It went all right. Definitely did not do as well as I hoped to. But definitely learned some lessons from my losses. So yeah, definitely.
Changes, brother. What are we doing differently? How are we not going to make? How are we going 5-1 in Vegas? What's changing?
I honestly don't know yet.
Okay.
I definitely feel like Don, more so than just a dog randomly blowing up and doing some mortals to him as the reason the list is bad. It's a lot more that he just doesn't fit the tempo of the rest of the list. He's a dude who moves 6, and the rest of my army moves 12 or more, and it's just hard for him to like do the thing he wants to do with the dogs because he's very often doing his own thing or like getting his dick off stuck in the wind somewhere, just off doing his own thing. Just I don't know. He didn't really fit with the tempo of the army. I felt like, so I might go back to a big knight or I might play orcs. I really don't really know yet. But I'm gonna take a break from playing games this winter break. I'm not bringing any models home, so I can focus on hobby and just decide what I want to play for the next couple months.
Sounds good. Alrighty.
What about you?
Very cool. Oh man, GSC. I'm basically like following Innes's little path of learning how to play this army. So the next step is to drop the trucks and take another 40 neophytes and a Clamavis, which is very hype. The trucks underperform a lot, and as much as I do love transport shenanigans, I love the horde a lot more than that. And having these like 3 very obvious like fire magnets for my opponent's railguns or whatever is very annoying. And saying you have to shoot the best target for that gun is actually a bike. He's -1 to hit. You wound him on 3s, and then I'll just pull a 2-wound dude. Moving on. It's going to feel a lot better than, oh, my tanks are dead. So that'll be fun. The Clamavis is hilarious. She does so much good stuff. 12-inch no deep strike bubble. Gives a unit act and shoot, which is fantastic. Gives a unit ignore combat attrition. Not ignore combat attrition modifiers. Ignore combat attrition. So if I fail morale, I lose a dude, and then I don't roll dice. That is awesome for units of 20 dudes showing up. So I'm very excited. A lot of output, a lot of shenanigans to get practiced with. Just need a lot of reps at the end of the day is what it's going to come down to. But I'm very, very excited about this list, and I think I'm going to do some nasty things to people in Vegas. Do we have any event? I guess Nick's got an RTT or 2 between now and Vegas, but other than that, I think we're basically just repping against each other. We'll see how things go.
I will have to say, it was so nice to play a whole tournament where we didn't team kill each other this time.
Yeah, no team kills. A
team kill on top table is like a win, so that's sick. But we didn't get there. It was a possibility.
I mean, Lucas team killed me on top table last time, and it didn't mean a win, but that's neither here nor there. But anywho. Very nice. Thank you all so much for joining us. If you've listened for 3 hours and 22 minutes and you're still here and you're somehow not connected to us in some monetary way, please come join us on Discord via Patreon. Come join us as a YouTube member. We got more bit reps going up all the time coming out of the next generation as well as out of the other places. Come check out our merch. We got a new line of merch. Oh, I didn't even put pictures of it. I'll put pictures of it next week. It's a little more stylized. It says TNG with like the logos and the letters. It's really cool. You'll like it. I think it looks really good on coffee mugs especially. So that's kind of fun. Check that out. That's about all we got for this week. We'll be back next week with our boy Ryan Sherwick to talk about that awesome Argent Shroud Sisters list and how it works. I might also go grab another Sisters expert to talk to him about it because we don't know a whole lot about Sisters, but I know a couple people that do. As it turns out.
I know at least
one. I got a couple people in mind. So look forward to that. That'll be next week. Same time, same place, doing the Fridays thing for a little bit as our weekends go kind of nuts. But unless you guys have anything else you want to mention? With that all being said and done, I've been Tyler.
I've been Nick.
And I'm still Lucas.
And we'll see you next time for the Christmas Spectacular Part 2.
Thank you all.
Take care,
Have a good
everyone.
night.
Bye.